Chapter 237. In Five Valley City, the cold wind blew the fallen leaves across the city wall. The two soldiers standing guard couldn't help but shiver. Zhang Sen, what do you see over there? What? At the end of the road. Smoke and dust are billowing. Can you feel the vibration of the earth? Yes. Oh my God, what is that? It's heavy cavalry. In an instant, the two soldiers looked at the city wall with an ashen face, only to see a man in the uniform of a Chiliarch riding a horse past and shouting, "Close the city gate and prepare for defense. From now on, no one is allowed to enter or leave Five Valley City. Someone, immediately sound the war drums for me to warn the enemy from afar." Dong 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 dong, the sound of the war drums echoed and shook the entire Five Valley City. In the governor's office of Five Valley City, Hu Tianning sat there anxiously frowning and said, "How could this be? How could this be? Where did Long Qianlin go? Where is his flying mount camp? Where is he when Songnan province needs him the most?" On the side, a masked official with a black veil on his face cupped his fists and said, "Lord Governor, General Long led the flying mount camp to 3 Mountain Pass for training a few days ago. Is this your order?" "Mr. Su, please ask me what should I do now?" Hu Tianning was already confused. Mr. Su looked calm and said indifferently, "Lord Governor, since Su Qin dared to lead the Muyu City's Iron Cavalry to Five Valley City to denounce us, it means that His Majesty already knows about our private coinage. Su Qin only dared to come under His Majesty's imperial edict. At this time, if we send troops to fight, it is tantamount to confirming the crime of rebellion. Either way we will die. In my opinion, it is better for us to go out of the city to meet Su Qin's army. Maybe there will be room for negotiation." "Room for negotiation?" Hu Tianning paced back and forth restlessly and said, "Private coinage is a capital crime. What room for negotiation is there?" "Sir, don't forget." Mr. Su smiled and said, "Your nephew, General Xiangyu, is still serving as the commander of the military police in the capital. He is in charge of the rewards and punishments for all the high-ranking generals in the imperial army. Even Su Qin is wary of Xiangyu. Moreover, you have always been on good terms with Divine Marquis. Even if you are escorted to the capital by Su Qin, as long as Divine Marquis and Xiangyu work together to persuade His Majesty to give you a lighter sentence, you can still keep your life. As long as you are alive with our financial resources, why should we worry about not being able to make a comeback?" Hu Tianning's eyes lit up and he said, "Mr. You mean, my only choice is to leave the city and surrender now?" "Yes." Mr. Su's eyes were bright as he said, "It's better than fighting to the death." "Don't worry, my lord, you've been operating in Blue South Province for many years and have many disciples. Moreover, we've already stored tens of millions of Jinxing coins near the Qinling Mountains. This subordinate will immediately order someone to bring the gold banknotes to the southern ridge and ask the King of South subduing Qin Yi to plead on your behalf. Even if we can't keep the governorship, we can at least fight for the position of governor of Silver Fir City for you. What does my lord think?" "Okay, do it immediately." "Yes." Mr. Su quickly turned around and ordered his subordinates. He then walked over and said, "My lord, change your clothes. We should leave the city to welcome Su Qin's army. This Su Qin is known as the most powerful general in the empire. He may not have the patience to wait for us to delay." "Yes." Hu Tianning put on the governor's uniform and armor as he asked, "How many soldiers are left in the city?" Mr. Su said, 17,000 of the Flying Mount Battalion have been led out of the city by General Long. There are less than 30,000 soldiers in the city. According to reports, there are 70,000 heavy cavalry of Muyu City outside the city. Su Qin and Su Yu have led the Steel Blade Army and the Zither Dragon Army to the city first. They are determined to take Five Valleys City. My lord, we should prepare the governor's seal of Blue South Province. That's the only way." Hu Tianning took the seal from his subordinate and caressed the iron box with reluctance. His face was full of sadness as he said, "I didn't expect that I, Hu Tianning, would have such a day. If I knew this day would come, I wouldn't have conspired with the House of Chivalry to mint coins. Damn it. It's all Lin Muyu's fault. Otherwise, the secret of minting coins would not have been exposed. My lord, it's too late to talk about it now. Let's go." Okay. Amidst the sound of the war drums, the heavy cavalry of Muyu City outside the city was also noisy. They hit their shields with their swords and shouted together, "Hu Tianning, go out of the city to welcome the great general. Hu Tianning, go out of the city to welcome the great general." Su Qin, dressed in military attire and carrying a saber, rode a sturdy black warhorse and stood under the city wall. He raised his long saber and loudly said to the group of guards on the city wall, I, Su Qin, have been ordered by His Majesty to arrest Hu Tianning. Don't be like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. I'll give you the time it takes to burn a stick of incense. If you don't open the city gate, I will attack the city with 3 armies. I want to see whether the walls of the 5 Valley City are thicker or the spears of my Iron Blade army are sharper. The guard on the city wall cupped his fists and said, Great General, this must be a misunderstanding. My lord has always been doing his duty. Why would His Majesty come to arrest my lord? I hope that the great general will investigate. What am I supposed to know? Su Qin shouted, Open the gate now or I'll smash this broken gate with my saber. The guard on the city wall raised his eyebrows and said, Great General, no matter what, the 5 Valley City is the central city of Changnan Province. How can you attack as you please? Great General, don't force me. Archers stand by. If anyone attacks the city, immediately shoot them down. Su Qin was furious. He pulled the reins and turned around. When he arrived in front of a group of Iron Blade Army's heavy cavalry, he raised his long saber and shouted, The time has come to quell the rebellion for the empire. The governor of the 5 Valley City, Hu Tianning, is stubborn. Brothers, prepare to attack the city. The war drums sounded like thunder. The heavy cavalry outside the city mounted their horses and prepared to attack. At this moment, with a sudden creak, the heavy iron gate slowly rose. When the gate was completely opened, Hu Tianning appeared in his field of vision with a group of advisors. Su Qin frowned. On the side, a female general of about 30 years old rode a white horse. She looked somewhat similar to Qin Yin. She was Su Yun's younger sister, Su Yu. Su Yu looked at Hu Tianning and the others from afar. She couldn't help but smile and said, Big brother, it seems that we don't need to attack the city anymore. Hu Tianning, that old fox, knows that he can't do anything and has already compromised. Ha! Su Qin smiled slightly and led a group of cavalry forward. He placed the long saber on the back of the horse and smiled, Governor Hu Tianning, long time no see. Hu Tianning hurriedly turned over and dismounted, knelt on the ground, held the governor's seal in his hand and said, Sinner Hu Tianning greets General Su Qin. Although I don't know why His Majesty has punished me, if the emperor wants me to die, I have no choice but to die. This is the governor's seal of Changnan Province, please examine it. That's good, Lord, who is really a sensible person. Su Qin smiled and said, But I still have to do things according to the rules. Someone bring me the prisoner carriage and help the governor get on it. Also, take over the entire 5 Valleys city. Yes. A group of Muyu city soldiers pushed out a prisoner carriage made of steel. This prisoner carriage was very strange. There were thorns protruding from all sides surrounding the center. It can be imagined that once a prisoner enters the carriage he will not be able to move. Otherwise, his skin will be pierced by the thorns. This kind of pain can be imagined. Thorn carriage? There was a trace of anger on Hu Tianning's face. General, what do you mean by this? Are you going to use the thorn carriage on me? What? Su Qin raised his eyebrows. If you have the guts to mint coins, don't tell me you don't have the guts to sit on this thorn carriage? Hu Tianning was furious. Mr. Su on the side whispered, Lord Governor, bear with it for a while. Su Qin is a reckless man. There is no benefit in clashing with him. After hearing this, Hu Tianning no longer said anything. He tidied up his clothes and armor and said, Then as General Su Qin wishes. Su Qin lightly said, Someone help Lord Hu Tianning remove his armor. Several heavy cavalry flew forward and quickly took off Hu Tianning's armor. Hu Tianning had never suffered such humiliation. His face was red but he was angry. Suddenly, a soldier's hand touched Hu Tianning's body. He immediately raised his hand and pulled out the sword at his waist, saying, How dare you? Just as Hu Tianning pulled out the sword, a whoosh sound of an arrow leaving the bowstring suddenly came from behind Su Qin. The next moment, a black arrow pierced through Hu Tianning's neck with a poochie sound. Fresh blood flowed out like a pool. Hu Tianning's arm, which was holding the sword, was still in the air. His body slowly fell backward and he died in an instant. Hu Tianning dead. Su Qin stood there dumbfounded. He suddenly turned around and looked at the person who shot the arrow. He loudly shouted, Zhang Santong, you bastard, why did you kill Hu Tianning? Zhang Santong was a deputy general. Still holding his longbow, he cupped his fists and said, General, Hu Tianning just pulled out his sword and tried to assassinate you. This subordinate shot him. Su Qin was speechless and angrily said, Bastard, Her Majesty and Her Highness never said that they wanted to kill Hu Tianning. You are simply putting me in an unjust situation. Zhang Santong hurriedly dismounted from his horse and knelt on the ground saying, "This subordinate is willing to die. General, please punish me." Forget it, forget it." Su Qin looked at Hu Tianing's body and lightly said, "If he dies then he dies. This kind of villain?" At this moment the sound of horse hooves came from afar. A person holding an iron spear shouted in the crowd, "Get out of the way, get out of the way. Let me pass." The person who came was none other than Long Qianlin, who was in a hurry. The pitiful Long Qianlin saw the corpse of his father-in-law, Hu Tianing, after entering the crowd. The arrow that had pierced through Hu Tianing's throat was stained with black blood. For a moment Long Qianlin trembled all over. He suddenly dismounted from his horse and knelt on the ground. Tears flowed from his eyes. "Sir? Sir, you are Long Qianlin?" Su Qin rode his horse over and lightly asked. Long Qianlin didn't say anything. He just carried Hu Tianing's corpse and walked step by step towards the Five Valley City. "Stop right there!" Su Qin violently shouted, "Long Qianlin, how dare you!" At this moment Long Qianlin had already reached the city gate. When he looked back, his eyes were filled with killing intent. He angrily shouted, "Close the city gate and fight." Chapter 238. Bang! The heavy iron gate slammed down. Long Qianlin handed Hu Tianing's corpse to a deputy general, then he carried his spear and rushed up the city wall. He shouted, "I, Long Qianlin, have returned. Close the city gates and prepare for battle. Archers, get ready, throw stones and roll logs." In terms of prestige in the Five Valley City army, Long Qianlin was absolutely second to none. A group of soldiers who were in a trance immediately became spirited after Long Qianlin arrived. They seemed to understand what they should do in an instant. Su Qin was furious when he saw the tense atmosphere on the city wall. He pointed his long saber at the city wall and shouted, "Long Qianlin, Hu Tianing's death was just an accident. Don't be stubborn or you'll be the one to regret it." Long Qianlin proudly looked at the city wall. The governor's death was an accident? Ah, what a big joke. Then today I want you, Su Qin, to die under the Five Valley City. Consider it an accident. "How dare you!" Su Qin shouted. 3 armies attacked the city. The heavy cavalry dismounted one after another, raised their shields and rushed to the city wall. Because they came in a hurry, they did not prepare any siege equipment at all. Only a simple battering ram, protected by a group of heavy cavalry, rushed to the city gate. "Release the arrows." Long Qianlin quickly ordered from the city wall. For a time, arrows fell like rain. Although most of the heavy cavalry's bodies were protected by armor, after all, their necks, faces and other positions could not be protected. In an instant hundreds of people were killed. In addition, huge stones fell from the city wall, smashing the soldiers into a pile of minced meat. In an instant Su Qin was furious. "Big brother." Su'er frowned slightly and said, "At first we did not think of attacking the city, so the heavy cavalry came to the city. But now it has become a siege. In my opinion we should wait for Father's army to arrive. They brought ladders, catapults and other equipment. Otherwise, if we attack the city like this, it is tantamount to sending the heavy cavalry to their deaths." Su Qin clenched his fists and said angrily, "That damn Long Qianlin, I will definitely tear him to pieces. Retreat." But just as the heavy cavalry of Muyu City retreated, Long Qianlin raised his hand with a murderous look on his face and said, "Men, prepare the spear and shield formation. Let's give these northern boors a taste of our power." The city gate opened and about 1,000 plus soldiers of the Five Valleys City came out of the city. They were all soldiers armed with spears and heavy shields. These soldiers were carefully selected. Each of them was very strong and had amazing arm strength. The 1,000 plus people lined up in 10 buckets at the foot of the city. They were shouting, provoking and ridiculing Su Qin in the distance. "Bastard." Su Qin waved his long blade and more than 2,000 heavy cavalry rushed over. The heavy cavalry of Muyu City were all carrying javelins. Before they got close, they threw a round of javelins. But after Long Qianlin, who was on the city wall, shouted, "Gather," the soldiers of the spear and shield formation assembled their shields like an iron wall. The javelins were deflected with a ding-dang-dang-dang sound, unable to hurt them at all. When the heavy cavalry was in close combat, Long Qianlin shouted, "Open!" In an instant, the shields separated as if they were decomposing. An iron spear quickly penetrated through the gaps of the shields and pierced the warhorses. At the same time, the round bucket formation rotated rapidly, defusing the impact of the cavalry. Like a meat grinder, the heavy cavalry of Muyu City were turned into a pile of flesh and blood. Blood quickly spread under the city wall. Archers aim and shoot. Long Qianlin continued to order. The soldiers with superb archery skills on the city wall began to shoot one by one. In the blink of an eye, another batch of heavy cavalry of Muyu City fell. The warhorses neighed incessantly. In less than 10 minutes, less than 500 of the 2,000 heavy cavalry were left, while the spear and shield formation of Five Valley City had lost less than 100 people. Suyu couldn't stand it anymore and said, "Big brother, we can't fight like this, let the soldiers come back." Su Qin gritted his teeth, clenched his fists and said, "Come back." Su Qin was filled with hatred as he gazed at this city that was famous for its 5 grains and fisheries, and he said, "I swear that I'll definitely raze this city to the ground. Long Qianlin, you bastard. I'll fucking tear you apart." In the blink of an eye, night fell. Outside the city, the 70,000 soldiers of Muyu City set up camp. The lights connected for nearly 10 miles, but the city was no longer as quiet as before. Even the people were helping to carry stones, rolling logs and so on to protect the city. Long Qianlin's face was pale. He carried his spear and walked step by step on the stone steps of the city wall. Mr. Su walked beside him and said, "General Long, the governor's body, let's go out of the city and bury him." Long Qianlin frowned and asked, "What's the situation at the south gate of Five Valley City?" "They have sent about 10,000 people to guard it. They can't break through for the time being." "I see." Long Qianlin looked up at the sky and said, "Tonight is cloudy, the stars and moon are dim. Prepare to attack Su Qin's camp at night?" "Attack at night?" Mr. Su was startled. Although Su Qin is reckless, he is also a man who has been in the army for a long time. It is impossible for him not to guess that we will attack his camp at night. Long Qianlin smiled faintly and said, "Yes, I also know that, but we have no other choice. Tonight, at midnight, I will personally lead 5,000 cavalrymen out of the city for a night raid and attack Su Qin's main camp. Mr. Su, half an hour after I leave the city for the night raid, you will open the 5 southern gates and lead the remaining people out of the city to break out of the encirclement. Take all the family members with you. I will entrust Xiaoyun to Mr.'s care." "General," Mr. Su said with a trembling voice, where can we go after we break through? This whole world belongs to the Emperor. Where else can we go after committing such a rebellious act?" Long Qianlin took a deep breath. "Although the land of the northern ridge is vast, there is no place for us to stand. Let's go to the Lingnan. The 4 provinces south of the Qinling Mountains can be our hiding place. By the way, let's go to the Mingshan province, Yu City near Shangyang City. My cousin Lin Yu is in Yu City. If we go to him, I believe the Empire will not chase us there." "General Lin Yu?" Mr. Su was speechless. Lin Yu, one of the legendary 7 divine generals of the Empire, is General's cousin? "Yes, my hometown was originally in Yu City. Go, Mr. Su, go and prepare. We don't have much time. If I, Long Qianlin, can break through alive, I will go find you and Xiaoyun." "Yes." Mr. Su cupped his fists, knelt on the ground and said, "All the living people of Five Valley City will thank General for your kindness. That Su Qin is reckless and cruel. He has been continuously defeated by General. Once the city is breached, he will definitely slaughter everyone." "Yes." Late at night, several gates of the north gate of Five Valley City opened quietly. More than 5,000 cavalrymen, their hooves wrapped in cloth, quickly left the city and went straight to Su Qin's camp in the distance. Long Qianlin held his iron spear, his face was resolute. He desperately whipped his warhorse, as if he wanted to turn into a gust of wind and blow away the Muyu City army in front of him. Boom! Suddenly there was a collapse in front of them. Dozens of cavalrymen fell into the pit. The other side was already prepared. "Continue to charge, don't stop." Long Qianlin ordered loudly, "Front, both flanks cover with shields, be careful of their bows and arrows." Sure enough, as he expected, countless arrows flew out from both sides of the jungle and bounced off the shields. Of course, many of them directly shot into the bodies of the Five Valley City cavalrymen. Miserable howls were heard, and in the blink of an eye, dozens of people were killed. At the very front there was a blazing fire. An entire formation of heavy cavalry was already waiting there. Su Qin held the long saber and the reins, his face full of killing intent. "Don't even think about leaving this place alive today. Kill." Long Qianlin led the crowd and rushed over without saying a word. In an instant, the cavalry of both sides collided and fought. Long Qianlin urged his horse to gallop. His martial spirit burst out, and the iron spear, like a swimming dragon, continuously penetrated the necks of the opponent's heavy cavalry. In the blink of an eye, dozens of people were killed. His battle robe was full of blood like a god of war. Behind Long Qianlin, about 1,000 heavy cavalry of the Five Valleys city followed the god of war closely. There was only one voice in the hearts of the soldiers: follow him and we can rush out alive. On the other hand, Su Qin was not to be trifled with. His long blade contained the light of Do Qi, and he swept out again and again, chopping off heads. If Long Qianlin was a god of war, then Su Qin could be called a god of death. Moreover, the number of heavy cavalry of the Iron Blade army far exceeded the opponent. Su Qin constantly ordered the division tactics, and soon the 5,000 people brought by Long Qianlin were divided into 7 or 8 pieces, and were digested little by little. In the middle of the night, the sounds of fighting soared to the sky, like the wailing of ghosts and the howling of gods. Screams were everywhere in the jungle and broken limbs fell on the grass. Life faded away with the wind. Almost everyone's eyes were bloodshot, especially Long Qianlin. He led more than 1,000 heavy cavalry to repeatedly clash, as if he was entering an uninhabited land. Even in the face of opponents several times his own, he still fearlessly rushed over as if he was born to kill. The more he fought, the fewer people there were, but more and more people died under Long Qianlin's spear. While charging, Long Qianlin calculated the time. Not long after, the spearhead suddenly shook and drilled into the mouth of a heavy cavalry of Muyu city. After a spray of blood, he shouted, "Follow me, break out of the encirclement." However, there were only more than 300 people left. Not long after the charge, a strong enemy appeared in front of them. It was the heavy cavalry of the Zither Dragon army led by Su Yu. Kill? Long Qianlin rushed over without fear, and his spear was sent out like a dragon. Dang, it was shaken away by Su Yu's sword. But he did not stop. He raised his spear horizontally and gently pushed it back, hitting the back of Su Yu's waist. In the game on the battlefield, Long Qianlin's ability seemed to be firmly above Su Qin and Su Yu. At this time at the south gate of Five Valley City, flames soared to the sky. Nearly 30,000 Five Valley City soldiers forcibly broke through, but they were wantonly killed by more than 10,000 heavy cavalry of Muyu City. It was as if the heavens and earth were moved. Soon after, snowflakes fell on the already cold corpses, not melting. Achoo! In the flying mount camp of Kathaya City under the candlelight, Lin Muyu, who was studying the 7 volumes of victorious tactics passed down by Xiang Wenian, suddenly shivered. He frowned and asked, "What time is it?" A guard replied, "It's the 3rd, General." "Is there any news from Five Valley City?" "Not yet." But Lin Muyu's heart was faintly uneasy. He put down the military book and looked up. Passed down the order, the 3 armies immediately set out and rushed to Five Valley City overnight. "It should be now." "Yes, General." Chapter 239. Early in the morning the snow was still falling. Clouds of smoke rose into the sky around the Five Valleys city. Corpses could be seen everywhere. All the civilians in the city did not dare to leave the city. Outside the north gate, a group of exhausted cavalrymen were dragging the corpses. According to the rules of the empire, the soldiers who died in battle were not qualified to be buried in their hometown. It was the same for the generals who were below the rank of centurion. All of them were buried on the spot to avoid the stench of the corpses. As if smelling the scent of blood, some wild dogs came out of the jungle to the north of the Five Valleys city, devouring the corpses everywhere. Even some young wolves appeared in groups, tearing the corpses of the dead soldiers. The scene looked a little unbearable to watch. After people died, there was no distinction. Whether it was the people of the Five Valleys city or the people of the Muyu city, their corpses had become the prey of wild beasts. Tuck tuck tuck. Su Qin's face was ashen. He let the snow fall on his shoulders and head. He looked at the tragic scene on the battlefield and said, "How many of them escaped?" Deputy General Zhang Santong cupped his fists and said, "Reporting to General, less than 20. "Did you find Long Qianlin's body?" "No, bastard." Su Qin punched the saddle and said, "We had 70,000 men surrounding the city and Long Qianlin escaped. This is a great shame for the Iron Blade army." Zhang Santong's face was pale and he did not dare to say anything. At this moment, Su Yu, who was inspecting the battlefield, also rode her horse over. Her originally elegant face was stained with blood. She raised her hand to wipe it off, but she did not manage to wipe anything off. She walked toward Su Qin and said, "Big brother? I've been to the southern battlefield. How is the situation?" Su Qin asked. Su Yu moved her red lips and wanted to say something but stopped. I asked you how is the situation," Su Qin said with a heavy tone. Suyu took a deep breath and said, Big brother, the 10,000 cavalrymen we arranged at the south gate suffered a fierce attack last night. The defenders in the city rushed out and caused great damage to us. How many people did we lose? Tell me. More than 7,000 died, more than 2,000 were seriously injured and 4 to 5,000 were lightly injured. Suyu said. What? Su Qin's body trembled slightly. His eyes were filled with hatred as he said, that traitor Long Qianlin? He killed a total of 20,000 elite cavalrymen of my Twilight Rain city in a single battle. What a goddamn traitor. With that, Su Qin's body shook slightly and he spat out a mouthful of blood. The arrow wound on his chest oozed blood again. Big brother, are you okay? Suyu asked. I'm fine. Su Qin looked at the Five Valley city with a pair of cold eyes and murmured, the warriors of Cloud Province have suffered such a setback in this cursed city. It's all my fault. Come on, pass down my order. After the 3 armies are reorganized, enter the Five Valleys city and slaughter the city. He said it casually, but Suyu's whole body trembled. Big brother, how could we do this? Why not? Su Qin's eyes were cold as he said, that's what our ancestors did. Any city that dares to rebel will be massacred. If we don't massacre them, how will these ambitious dogs know that the prestige of the empire cannot be violated? You don't have to say anything. I know you have good intentions. Leave this matter to me. But big brother. Suyu sighed and said, the Five Valley city is one of the 7 major cities of the empire. It has a population of 2.4 million. Are you planning to kill all 2.4 million people? No, massacre the city for 3 days. Kill as many as you can. Su Qin clenched his fists and said, I've made up my mind. No one should say anything else. Otherwise you will be punished according to military law. A trace of disappointment flashed across Suyu's face. She cupped her fists respectfully and said, Yes, General. This subordinate has no objections. Heavy snow was still falling on the ground. The Steel Blade Army and the Zither Dragon Army began to cook. Smoke rose from the chimneys. After breakfast they would start a massacre. The order to massacre the city for 3 days had been issued. Apart from Suyu, no one seemed to feel that there was anything wrong with it. There were too many precedents like this. The soldiers discussed animatedly with smiles on their faces. The unruly people of the Five Valley city have raised a tiger in their bosom, allowing Hu Tianning to be so daring as to rebel. He deserves to be killed. A soldier with a face full of beard sneered as he drank the cold meat soup. Another soldier with a protruding mouth and monkey cheeks said with a face full of lust, Hey, let's make this clear. I'll choose first from the girls our Silver Spear Battalion has plundered. Wang Ergu, you pervert. Sooner or later you'll die on a woman's belly. A fat soldier laughed loudly. Wang Ergu said with a smile, There's a saying that if you die under a peony flower, you'll be dissolute even as a ghost. I've long heard that the girls of the Five Valley city are all plump and tender. Hey, I've never played with them before. This opportunity has finally come. Bullsh *T, haven't you played enough? Anyway, when we massacre the city later, let's compete and see who kills more unruly people. The one who kills the least will treat us, how about it? Okay, it's a deal. Basically, this kind of conversation was going on in the barracks. Massacring the city was a disaster for the people, but for the soldiers who participated in the massacre, it was a crazy feast. Money, women, killing, lust, all of these would be infinitely magnified at this moment. At this moment there was no longer any crime, only the most primitive desire. After breakfast, nearly 50,000 heavy cavalry mounted their horses, while Su Qin carried his long blade and stood in front of the crowd. At this moment, suddenly, a deputy general rode over with a group of about 300 plus Five Valley city civilians behind him. The corner of his mouth had a sinister smile as he said, General, this group of unruly people actually wanted to secretly escape from the slope of the city wall on the west side. I discovered them in time and have specially come to hand them over to the general to deal with. Su Qin's eyes were cold and he stretched out his hand and made a kill gesture. First Battalion, follow me. The deputy general shouted. The phalanx of 500 cavalrymen immediately rushed over, their spears piercing and their broadswords slashing. Puff, puff, puff. With a puff, puff, puff sound, blood spurted out and screams sounded one after another. Regardless of the old or the young, they were all beheaded. In the blink of an eye, more than 300 civilians were dead, and finally, there was only a child about 4 or 5 years old left standing in the pile of corpses, crying loudly. Su Qin's eyes swept over and lightly asked, What's wrong? Can't bear to do it? Zhang Santong quickly raised his longbow, and with a whoosh, an arrow flew out and directly shot through the child's heart. The strength of the arrow was too fierce, and the arrow was infused with true qi, directly blasting a big hole in the child's chest. His entire heart was instantly crushed, and the child did not even have the chance to scream before he died. He died on the spot. Prepare to enter the city. Su Qin raised his long blade. But at this moment, the ground suddenly trembled slightly, and messy and dense sounds of horse hooves came from afar. Su Qin immediately frowned and asked, "What's going on?" A light cavalryman galloped over, cupped his fists and said, "Reporting to the great general, the general of the south, Lin Muyu, is leading nearly 20,000 heavy cavalrymen on the main road. It seems to be the army of the Flying Mount Camp." "Wuxia." Su Qin laughed and said, "That kid transferred the Flying Mount Camp from Long Qianlin's hands, minimizing the losses of our army. It can be considered a great contribution. Since he is also here, then share some of the credit for the massacre of the city with him. Let's wait for a while, and let you lead his men into the Five Valleys city to massacre the city." "Yes." Not long after, the neat silhouettes of the Flying Mount Camp soldiers appeared on the horizon. Lin Muyu, who was dressed in the white robe of the Divine Temple, rode his horse at the forefront. He could see Su Qin, Su Yu, and the mess around the battlefield from afar. He couldn't help but frown. Sure enough, things didn't go as smoothly as he had imagined. A fierce battle had finally broken out in the Five Valleys city. You're here?" Su Qin laughed and said, "Since you've taken control of the Flying Mount Camp, it's already a great contribution." Lin Muyu cupped his fists and said, "Your subordinate pays his respects to the great general." "Hey, why are you so polite?" Su Qin raised his arm and said, "Look, the Five Valleys city is already in our pocket. Long Qianlin is stubborn and has lost so many of my soldiers. It's really hateful. I've already given the order to massacre the city. Since you're here, I'll give you the credit. Now lead your men into the city and kill to your heart's content." "Massacre the city?" Lin Muyu's body trembled. His eyes fell on the more than 300 corpses of the civilians in front of him. His heart was in turmoil. He turned to look at Su Qin and murmured, "General Su Qin, these civilians were killed by you?" "Yes, they tried to escape in vain. They only have themselves to blame." "Is that so?" Lin Muyu desperately suppressed his anger. He cupped his fists and said, "General, I think that since we've taken the city, we've already completed His Majesty's edict. There's no need to kill civilians anymore." "What did you say?" Su Qin was stunned. "These civilians and the traitors killed 20,000 of my Twilight Rain City's warriors. You're asking me not to massacre the city?" "Yes." Lin Muyu looked at him with a resolute gaze. Then she pointed behind her and said, "There are 17,000 people from the Flying Mount Battalion behind me. Most of them are from Wugu City. Are you going to ask them to kill their own people?" "General, Hu Tianix's rebellion has nothing to do with these civilians. They're innocent." "Enough, Lin Muyu." Su Qin suddenly said sternly, "I didn't bother with you because you're the Emperor's adopted son. But you dare to pester me like this? Get out of my way. I, Su Qin, will massacre the entire Five Valleys city." Lin Muyu was startled. He suddenly laughed at himself and pointed at the steel blade army behind Su Qin. He said loudly, "You're all soldiers of the Empire. You're all familiar with the family's teachings. Tell me, as a soldier, isn't it your duty to guard the land and protect your own people? If you massacre the entire city, what qualifications do you have to wear the purple Yinhua emblem?" "Lin Muyu, how dare you?" Su Qin said angrily. Su'er rode forward and said, "You." "Enough, don't say any more." Lin Muyu smiled faintly and waved his hand. He shouted, "Flying Mount Camp, enter the city and defend it. Whoever dares to kill the people of the Five Valleys city will be our enemy. Kill without mercy." Chapter 240. Lin Muyu, how dare you? Su Qin was furious. He jumped from the horse's back and his dou qi overflowed. He condescendingly slashed towards Lin Muyu, his eyes full of killing intent. This was probably the first time Su Qin had been humiliated like this. Lin Muyu looked up at Su Qin, her eyes full of contempt. Wang. The golden gourd martial soul came out of his body and instantly condensed into a golden gourd wall. Black tortoise shell and dragon scale wall were added one after another. He was going to use the defense of his martial soul to take this attack. Bang! Light splashed and Su Qin's attack was directly bounced back. But as a great general, how could he still have any face after such a collision? He raised his sword and slashed in an arc. Lin Muyu gritted his teeth, and his do chi quickly poured into his left arm. His divine power was enshrouded in a golden dragon-shaped psionic energy, as if forming a shield, and blasted toward Su Qin's sword. Dang! The moment Su Qin's sword touched Lin Muyu's arm, there was a sound of metal colliding with stone, and the blade immediately collapsed. What? Su Qin turned around and landed on the horse. Looking at the short sword in his hand, the horror in his heart was extreme. This was a mysterious grade 3 treasure sword, yet it was blocked by Lin Muyu with his bare hands and broke. Enter the city? Taking advantage of Su Qin's shock, Lin Muyu waved his hand, and suddenly a group of cavalry captains of the Flying Mount camp took advantage of the situation and led the army into the Five Valley City. At this moment, this group of cavalry captains really submitted to Lin Muyu, the temporary commander. They were willing to challenge Su Qin for the sake of the Five Valley City. In Lin Muyu they even saw the shadow of Long Qianlin. Why are you doing this? Su Yu sighed. Lin Muyu cupped her hands and said, I am the adopted son of the emperor. Speaking of which, I should call you uncle or Aunt Luan. However, once the city is massacred, the empire will lose the hearts of the people of Five Valley City. This is not a price that the lives of 20,000 soldiers can pay. I hope uncle will think twice. Lin Muyu has no intention of disobedience. I just don't want uncle to disobey the emperor's order and massacre the city here. Indeed, Qin Jin's imperial edict had never mentioned massacring the entire city. Thus, as long as Lin Muyu spoke a few words in front of the emperor, even Su Qin would be in danger. Thinking of this, Su Qin gritted his teeth, cupped his fists and said, General Lin is right. I was negligent. In that case, I will station my troops outside the city and wait for Father and Her Highness Yin to come. I will see what they have to say. All right. Lin Muyu turned his horse around and led the army to officially enter Five Valley City. At this moment, he had become the temporary master of Five Valley City. At this time, Five Valley City was already in chaos. Thieves were running rampant and looting everywhere. A large number of people were planning to escape from the South Gate with their families. Many people seemed to have received the news that Su Qin was about to massacre the city, and they were all scared out of their wits. Seal all the city gates. As Lin Muyu walked, he said to the cavalry captain next to him, Send out the Flying Mount Battalion, a team of 10 people. Send more to maintain law and order in the city. Don't let the Five Valley City continue to be chaotic. Also, transfer 10,000 people to guard the city gates to prevent Su Qin from attacking the city. Yes, General. A cavalry captain followed closely and asked, General, will Commander Su Qin really attack the city? Probably not, but not necessarily. Restore the law and order of Five Valley City first. Yes. Another cavalry captain came over, cupped his fists and said, General, I have inquired about what you wanted to inquire about. Just yesterday, Hu Tianning went out of the city and offered Five Valley City to Su Qin, but he was shot and killed by one of Su Qin's deputy generals. This caused General Long Qianlin to lead the army to fight against the Iron Blade army. Late last night, Long Qianlin led 5,000 people to attack Su Qin's camp. He covered the rest of the people from the South Gate and took Hu Tianning and Long Qianlin's families to the Qinling Mountains. So that's how it is. Lin Muyu stepped into the city lord's hall and said, Did Long Qianlin break out in the end? I don't know. It was too chaotic last night. No one knows if General Long Qianlin managed to escape, but Su Qin has been looking for General Long's body, so General Long's whereabouts are unknown. Lin Muyu sighed, I hope Long Qianlin can escape this disaster. The cavalry captain stepped forward, knelt on one knee, cupped his fists and said, General Lin, on behalf of all the soldiers of Five Valley City, I thank the General. Thank you for saving the lives of millions of people in Five Valley City by yourself. Get up. Lin Muyu waved his hand and said, His Majesty sent me and Highness Yin to Muyu City to ask for reinforcements, but he did not order me to slaughter the city. This is what I should do. If I really slaughter the people of Five Valley City today, I am afraid that His Majesty will leave a bad name in Songnan province because of me. Yes, General is wise. Don't talk so much, go and strengthen the city's defenses. Yes, this general will go. At night, the servants of the governor's mansion prepared a quite sumptuous dinner. Lin Muyu asked the group of cavalry captains to stay for dinner. As for the 3,000 people brought from Muyu City, they were asked to leave the city and return to Su Qin's camp. It was not a good thing to keep them in the city, it was equivalent to putting a time bomb around them. Later, a group of civil officials entered the governor's hall and saluted. One of them unfolded a scroll and said, General, we have been ordered to count the treasury of the governor's mansion. The details are as follows. There are more than 24 million Jianghu coins, about 2,100 kilograms of gold, silver and jade. In addition, there are countless antiques, more than 40,000 weapons, more than 3,000 calligraphy and paintings of famous people, and 200,000 stones of grain. Although Five Valley City is rich, most of the wealth has been taken away by Mr. Su and his troops. Lin Muyu frowned. They brought so much gold and silver with them, do you think they can escape? One of the cavalry captains stepped forward and whispered in Lin Muyu's ear. General, the scouts reported that Su Qin has sent a 10,000-man cavalry team to chase after the governor's mansion's family 6 hours ago. This general suspects that Commander Su Qin's real intention is the gold and silver. Moreover, with Commander Su Qin's current temper, as long as he catches up, the family will most likely die. Should we send troops out of the city? What for? Lin Muyu shook his head and said, there is no need. I have already offended Commander Su Qin, I can't offend him again and again. Besides, it's too late to send people out now. Order the officials in the city to send food supplies to the 50,000 troops outside the city on time every day. No one can touch the gold and silver of the governor's mansion. Wait for the people sent by the imperial capital to count. Yes. No, what's wrong, sir? How many Jianghu coins are in the governor's mansion's treasury? 24 million. Tell the clerk to record 24 million and exchange the remaining 1 million into gold notes and give it to me. I can't protect the Five Valley City for nothing. The cavalry commandant smiled. All right, I'll do as you say. Soon after, 1 million gold notes were in his hands. They could be exchanged for Jianghu coins at any gold bank in the empire, provided that there was enough cash in the gold bank. In fact, Lin Muyu originally did not intend to deduct the money from the Five Valley City, but the Longdan army camp was expanding again and needed money too much. This money could not be allocated by the Ministry of Revenue of Lanyan City, so Lin Muyu could only think of a way herself. Besides, even if Lin Muyu did not use the 24 million Jianghu coins, someone else would naturally use it. At that time it would not be worth it. The next day he directly sent 1 million gold notes to Luoyu. In this way the Longdan army camp's recent expenses would definitely not be a problem. On the 7th day, Su Muyun and Qinin finally arrived. 100,000 infantrymen appeared in the Cangnan province and quickly recovered all the prefectures and counties. As a result, the power of the entire Cangnan province fell into the hands of Qinin. At noon, banners fluttered in the distance, and the advance guards arrived at the foot of the city. Chapter 241. Feng Jixing's face was full of respect as he held the golden imperial edict in his hands and walked up the stone steps of the governor's manor. Behind him, a group of high-ranking imperial army generals followed closely. Among them was a general with a face full of beard and 2 gold stars on his collar. His military rank was very high and he was the deputy commander of the imperial army, Si Kongfan. He was a powerhouse at the first level of Heaven Realm. Su Muyun, Su Qin, Lin Muyu, and the others knelt on one knee on the cold stone floor and said in unison, "We accept the imperial edict." Feng Jixing smiled and unfolded the scroll. The fate of the great Qin is decided by the heavens and by the emperor. The emperor has ordered that General Su Qin will be rewarded with 10,000 hectares of fertile land and 100,000 Jianghu coins for his contribution in quelling the rebellion. General Lin Muyu escorted Her Highness Qin to Muyu City with the imperial edict and was rewarded with 100,000 Jianghu coins. Today the commander of the imperial army, Feng Jixing, will lead his troops to Wugu City to take over all the military and political power. The deputy commander of the imperial army, Si Kongfan, will be appointed as the governor of Cangnan province and will be in charge of all the military and political affairs in the province. The flying cavalry battalion that Lin Muyu controls will be handed over to Feng Jixing to bring back to Lanyan City. I have not seen General Yun for a long time. Please, General Yun, Su Qin, Su Yu, Her Highness Qinin, and Lin Muyu to return to Lanyan City together with me. All the troops of Muyu City must return to their camps within 3 days without any delay. I accept the imperial edict. Su Muyun slowly stood up and took the imperial edict from Feng Jixing's hands. Feng Jixing took a step forward and held Su Muyun's arm. He smiled and said, "Duke Yun is old, but you are still able to work hard for the country. His Majesty has instructed before that Duke Yun is to go to Lanyan City with the etiquette of a duke. There's nothing you don't need." Su Muyun cupped his fists in gratitude and said to the West, "Thank you, Your Majesty, for your grace." Su Qin said, General Feng, it's been a long journey. Let's rest in Five Valleys City tonight. Let's set off for Lanyan City tomorrow to meet His Majesty. What do you think? Of course. Feng Jixing smiled. I will listen to your arrangements. All right. Tonight I'll set up a banquet at the governor's mansion. Don't leave until you're drunk. Yes. At dusk the heavy snow had stopped. The setting sun brought with it a faint warmth as it shone on the administrative hall of the governor's mansion. Qin was lazily lying on the chair beside the huge office table. She pushed away the documents on the table and stretched her body. At this moment her demeanor was peerless and intoxicating. Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing and Si Kongfan swallowed their saliva at the same time. Big brother, you come here. Qin smiled and beckoned. Lin Muyu stood up from the chair in front of the desk, hugged the silver helmet and asked, What's wrong, Xiaoyin? Come here and help me take a look. Okay. He came to Qin Yin's side. Qin naturally took his hand and said with a smile, Look at this military report. Five Valleys City originally had 120,000 soldiers. Now there are only 60,000 soldiers? Yes. Lin Muyu nodded. In the battle outside Five Valleys City, the 70,000 soldiers led by Su Qin and Long Qianlin's garrison suffered losses on both sides. That night, Long Qianlin commanded the garrison to escape with his family. Tens of thousands of people were chased and killed. In addition, more than 10,000 people from the Flying Mount camp have been removed from the provincial army. So, Sangnan province can be said to be short of soldiers and generals. I see. Qin blinked and looked up at him. She suddenly smiled warmly and said, Uncle has a violent temperament. This matter has wronged you. You don't be angry. Uncle is not a heinous person. It's just that sometimes his loyalty to the empire makes him unable to distinguish right from wrong. Yes, I know. At this time, Feng Jixing coughed and said, Your Highness, this time, it's all thanks to you strong obstruction. Otherwise, once General Yu massacred the city, it would definitely shock the world. You should know, there hasn't been such a thing in the empire for decades. If it wasn't for you, I'm afraid His Majesty would inevitably be labeled as a tyrant by the world. Qin smiled slightly. Yes, I also understand this. Things have changed with the passage of time. Some of the laws and rules of the empire are obviously no longer in line with this era. After returning to Lanyan City, I will talk to my imperial father and let him issue a national edict to strictly abolish the law of massacring the city. Yes. Feng Jixing cupped his fists. Then I will first thank Your Highness for your kindness on behalf of the world. Si Kongfan also smiled slightly and said, Your Highness is wise and brilliant. Qin chuckled. Don't praise me, it's useless. General Si Kongfan, I don't have the power to promote your military position and status. Besides, after the Battle of Wugu City, Sangnan province is in chaos. There's a shortage of soldiers. Although you has worked hard to maintain it for many days, it still hasn't reached its original level. In the future you still have to rely on yourself to manage it. General Si Kongfan, you must replenish Wugu City with more than 100,000 soldiers as soon as possible. After all, this city is one of the 7 major cities of the empire. It won't do without enough defenders. Si Kongfan cupped his fists and said respectfully, This subordinate obeys. Si Kongfan will not disappoint Your Highness. That's good. Qin stood up and looked Lin Muyu in the eye. She smiled and said, Brother Yu, I'll have to trouble you during the banquet. Later. Xiaoyin will accompany you to apologize to Uncle and ask him to forgive you for your previous disrespect, okay? Qin held his hand tightly. There was a wronged expression on her beautiful face. She was acting cute and coquettish. Naturally, Lin Muyu couldn't say anything. Besides, Qin Yin's action was indeed reasonable and appropriate. It was indeed what she should do. Lin Muyu also understood that since she came to this world, she had to learn to follow the rules of this world. At least, she had to do so before she had the power to overturn this world. Yes, okay, let's go and apologize together. Okay. Qin smiled sweetly, but it made Feng Jixing and Si Kongfan so envious that they touched their noses together. They looked at each other and smiled. Everything was said without words. The banquet was very grand. About 100 people attended. Qin sat in the host seat, accompanied by Su Muyun, Su Qin, Feng Jixing, Si Kongfan and the others. Lin Muyu's position was slightly lower, so she could only sit with Zhang Wei, Luo Lai and a few other Imperial Army Kiliarchs. General Jinan belonged to the 4th rank of the Empire's military system. Naturally, he couldn't sit with Su Qin, who was the 1st rank. No matter how great Lin Muyu's contributions were, this rule couldn't be broken. Five Valley City was rich and populous, so there was naturally a lot of food and wine stored in the city. In addition, there were many beautiful women in Five Valley City. Even the maids who held the wine jug were quite beautiful. Zhang Wei and Luo Lai chatted happily, but Lin Muyu held her wine cup and drank cup after cup. She looked at Su Qin, Si Kong Fan, and the others from afar and felt a little disgusted. After 3 rounds of wine, when everyone was a little tipsy, Qin Yin held a jade cup in one hand and lifted the hem of her skirt with the other. She walked to Lin Muyu's side and said with a smile, "Brother Yu, let's go and apologize." "Okay." Lin Muyu untied his sword and placed it on the table. He picked up his wine cup and stood up. Qin Yin naturally held his arm, looking like a brother and sister. The two of them came before Su Qin. Qin Yin's face was filled with a bewitching, sweet smile. She said, "Uncle, Brother Yu and I have come to apologize to you. I hope you can forget the unhappy things that happened in Five Valley City, okay?" Su Qin was stunned. He quickly cupped his fists and said, "I dare not, Your Highness." Lin Muyu held the cup with both hands and said, "General, I have offended you before. I hope you can forgive me." "You don't be so polite. I was indeed a little impulsive at that time. Since we are family, let's not talk too much. Come, let's drink this cup of wine and pretend that nothing happened." Yes. The wine was very sweet. Su Qin drank this cup of wine and put it down. He raised his eyebrows and once again cupped his fists and bowed to Qin Yin. He said with a smile, "Xiao Yin, I did not go to Lanyan City to see His Majesty empty-handed. Did Uncle bring a gift for Imperial Father?" "Of course." Su Qin chuckled and said, "Does Xiao Yin want to see it?" "Of course, show it to me quickly." "Okay." Su Qin clapped his hands and said loudly, "General Zhang Santong, bring the gift here." "Yes." Zhang Santong walked in from outside with a silver box. His dark blue cloak fluttered in the wind. He was in high spirits as if he had done something great. He handed the box to Qin Yin and said respectfully, "Your Highness, this is General's gift to His Majesty." "Open it." "Yes." The moment the box was opened, Qin Yin let out a low scream and turned around to throw herself into Lin Muyu's arms. Lin Muyu hugged Qin Yin with one arm and leaned over to take a look. To her surprise, there was a bloody human head in the box. The blood had already frozen into frost. The dead man's eyes were wide open, as though he had died with a grievance. It was as though he was about to come back to life at any moment. It was none other than Hu Tianning. Lin Muyu's heart sank. He closed the box and held Qin Yin's slender waist with one hand. He turned around and asked, "General, how did Hu Tianning's head come about?" Su Qin raised his eyebrows and said, "A few days ago, I ordered Zhang Santong to lead the elite cavalry to hunt down Hu Tianning and Long Qianlin's family members. We even intercepted their remaining members just now, so we chopped off Hu Tianning's head as a gift to His Majesty. Hu Tianning was so daring that he minted coins privately. He deserved to die. Your Highness, what do you think of this gift?" Qin Yin was startled by the gift in the box. She regained her composure and said with a calm gaze, "I believe that Father will be very satisfied with this gift." "Ah, that's good." Su Qin raised his hand and drank another glass of wine. The red wine flowed down the corner of his mouth like blood. Zhang Santong walked out with the box. Lin Muyu hurriedly chased after him. She stepped on the snow in the Governor-General's manner and asked, "General Zhang, please wait a moment." "What's wrong, General Lin? Is something the matter?" Zhang Santong asked respectfully. "Since we caught up to Hu Tianning's body, then, do we have any information on Long Qianlin's whereabouts?" Lin Muyu asked. Zhang Santong grinned and said, "Long Qianlin, that treacherous traitor, has probably died in the chaos? I didn't see him." "Then, what about Hu Tianning and Long Qianlin's family members?" "We've captured them all. They're locked up in the Five Valley City's imperial prison." "I see, yes. General, I'm going to check on them." "Excuse me." All right." Chapter 242. Late at night, the moonlight was clear. Lin Muyu, dressed in a white robe, leaned against the stone railing outside the administrative hall, holding the dragon spirit sword in his arms. Qin Yin had already fallen asleep, but he was standing guard outside Qin Yin's room. Beside him, Zhang Wei lit a cigarette, took a puff and said with a smile, "Lord Lin Muyu, do you want a puff?" "No need, you can enjoy it yourself." "Does Lord have something on his mind?" "You can say that, ha." Zhang Wei laughed and said, "Brother, it's not that I want to criticize you, but you are a gold star sparring master in the Holy Temple, and the Great Deacon thinks highly of you. In Zetian Palace, you are even regarded as an adopted son by the Emperor. Even a rough person like me can see how much Her Highness likes you, and your cultivation is even more unfathomable. I really don't understand, what is there to be dissatisfied with after reaching this stage? Your worries? Could it be about how to marry Her Highness? That's true. She is the only crown prince and there are countless people who want to marry her, but there are only a few who can marry her and only the nobles and the grand dukes can marry her. Lin Muyu curled his lips. Old Jiang, what are you thinking about? I've never thought about this. Then do you love Her Highness? Zhang Wei suddenly rubbed out the cigarette butt and asked with a smile. Lin Muyu was stunned. He reached out and grabbed a handful of snow, kneaded it into a snowball and threw it out. He said in a low voice, love. Ha! Zhang Wei laughed. You young people are so pretentious. Love is love, there is no need to be so embarrassed. If you love Her Highness, then work hard towards her. With your ability, who knows, you might even become a queen in the future. The key is that you can't do things like offending Su Qin and His Majesty anymore. You should understand this better than me, right? I know. Lin Muyu smiled faintly. Old Zhang, you are getting me into trouble. The reason why I am distressed is not because of Xiaoyin. She is doing well now and I am also doing well. Moreover, we can see each other every day. What is there to be distressed about? Then why? Because of Long Qinlin's family. Zhang Wei stood up and said solemnly, My lord, I know that you and Long Qinlin are friends, but you mustn't make a mistake. Long Qinlin is now a traitor of the empire. His family members are also guilty of the same crime. If my lord saves Long Qinlin's family members and this matter reaches His Majesty's ears, I'm afraid that old man Zheng Yifan will have something to use against you. I know. Lin Muyu looked up at the bright moonlight and said, but Long Qinlin trusted me so much that he handed over the 17,000 winged cavalry battalion to me. If I can't even save his wife, what will the world think of me, Lin Muyu? Zhang Wei's body trembled as he said, if you're determined to save Long Qinlin's wife, then I, Zhang Wei, am willing to go with you. How are you going to save her? Lin Muyu asked. Zhang Wei squinted his eyes and said with a smile, it just so happens that there are two groups of people guarding the prison. One group is the Imperial Army, and the other group is the Iron Blade Army of Muyu City. The Imperial Army will replace them in the latter half of the night. They are all my people. Tonight, I will create chaos and seize the opportunity to save Long Qinlin's wife. But I can only save one person. Okay. Lin Muyu nodded and said, tonight, I will take the initiative to take the winged cavalry battalion to patrol the city. When the time comes, I will pick you up. After rescuing Hu Xiaoyun, old Zhang, you will personally send her to Mount Longyan in Lanyan City. Send Hu Xiaoyun up the mountain and tell Luo Yu in the Longdan army camp to take care of Hu Xiaoyun. When there is news of Long Qinlin, send her over. Yes, my lord, don't worry. Okay. Late at night, the sound of a collapse shook the city. The walls of the prison had collapsed. Under the moonlight, Zhang Wei carried a woman in his arms and galloped towards the north gate of Five Valley City. Outside the north gate, Lin Muyu was guarding the gate with a group of soldiers from the winged cavalry battalion. She opened her hand and said loudly, the gate is closed. If you want to leave the city, you can leave tomorrow. Zhang Wei lifted his cloak and said with a smile, General Lin, it's me. My mother is sick and I want to go home to visit her. I hope that General will let me go. Thank you very much. It's Sir Zhang Wei. Lin Muyu smiled and waved her hand. Open the gate and let him go. A winged cavalry battalion commandant was dumbfounded. Sir, this is against the rules, right? The general said that no one is allowed to enter or leave Five Valley City after midnight. If I ask you to let him go, then let him go. Don't talk too much. Yes. Zhang Wei slowly galloped past. At this moment, the cloak on the head of the woman in his arms slowly slid down, revealing a beautiful face. She gently bowed to Lin Muyu and said, Hu Xiaoyin? Thank you, General Lin. Lin Muyu waved her hand and said, hurry up and go. Thank you, General. Zhang Wei disappeared into the night amidst the sound of hooves. The two winged cavalry battalion commandants also saw Hu Xiaoyun's appearance and looked at Lin Muyu with a dumbfounded expression. You guys just pretend that you didn't see anything. If anyone dares to leak any information, I will chase him to the ends of the earth and kill him. A murderous look flashed across Lin Muyu's face. The two winged cavalry battalion commandants knelt on the ground and said with a trembling voice, we brothers from the winged cavalry battalion will never be able to repay General's kindness. Don't say any more. Go back and sleep early. We still have to rush to Lanyan City early tomorrow morning. Yes. That night Lin Muyu couldn't sleep. On one hand, she was worried about whether Zhang Wei would arrive at Dragon Rocky Mountain safely. On the other hand, she felt sorry for Long Qianlin's whereabouts were unknown. Long Qianlin was a benevolent general, and it would be a pity if he died just like that. The next morning the army set off straight for Lanyan City. Su Muyun sat in a carriage with the etiquette of a nobleman. 8 black horses pulled the carriage together, looking very dignified. Qin Yin, on the other hand, sat in the princess carriage. Lin Muyu rode on a warhorse and followed closely beside the carriage to protect it. This was his responsibility. The snow was melting and the weather was very cold. Qin Yin lifted the curtain of the carriage and looked at Lin Muyu with a smile. She asked, do you want some fruits? I have apples and pears here. Do you want some? No need. Thank you, Xiaoyin. Lin Muyu grabbed the water bag from her waist and drank a mouthful of wine. Immediately, a warm current flowed into her stomach. Strong wine could ward off the cold. This was a time-tested fact. At this time, Feng Jixing, who was wearing a commander's armor, came over on his horse. He smiled and said, Your Highness, I want to eat an apple. Hehe, I'm not giving it to you. Qin Yin stuck out her tongue. Lin Muyu burst into laughter. Brother Feng, why are you here? Aren't you leading the way at the front? This time there are 5,000 imperial guards. There's no need for me to lead the way. Feng Jixing furrowed his brows and said, On the other hand, Duke Yun ordered me to take good care of the families of the traitor generals in the prison carts at the back. This is really troublesome. I, Feng Jixing, can't stand seeing women being humiliated. Alright, Ayu, do you know where Zhang Wei went? He disappeared without saying a word. That guy, if it wasn't for his good command, I would have removed him from his position. Lin Muyu took an apple from Qin Yin and passed it to Feng Jixing. I don't know. What does it have to do with me if you don't look after your own subordinates? Feng Jixing took a bite of the apple and juice splattered everywhere. He looked at Lin Muyu with a chuckle and said in a low voice, Humph, the walls of the imperial prison collapsed last night. A general purposely released a woman. This scene was seen by a beggar. You guys are too dirty. You even need me to clean up after you. I wasted 10 Jinin coins just to get rid of that beggar. Lin Muyu felt a chill in her heart. She couldn't help but say gratefully, Then, thank you, brother Feng. Feng Jixing patted his shoulder and wiped the apple juice on his hand on Lin Muyu's holy temple cloak. Next time you do something like this, let me know, okay? Yes, I know. Hey, remember to treat me to a meal when you return to Lanyan City. I didn't give you 10 Jinin coins for nothing. No problem. I'll treat you to a meal at Tingyu Tower until you're full. Okay. I also want to find 2 beauties to drink with me. That's fine too. Qin Yin looked at Feng Jixing from afar and pouted. General Feng, don't lead my brother you astray. Tingyu Tower doesn't have any beauties to drink with you. General Feng took a deep breath and said meaningfully, Your Highness, you and you are deeply in love with each other. Have you ever thought that a single general like me will also be lonely at night? Qin Yin blushed. She couldn't win against him in an argument. General Feng, you're not ashamed. Feng Jixing spread out his hands. What's wrong with that? After the banquet last night, didn't a certain crown prince secretly kiss Yu's left cheek in the corner of the administrative hall? Qin Yin's face turned even redder. She waved her fists. I'm going to use the god-binding chains to fight it out with you. Feng Jixing laughed. Look, His Highness is getting anxious. Ayu, do you think there's any falsehood in my words? Lin Muyu touched her nose. It's the right cheek. Qin Yin blushed. I don't want to talk to you guys anymore. At this time, Su Qin, who was riding in front of them, turned around and looked at them in surprise. You guys. What are you doing? Nothing, General. Feng Jixing cupped his fists and said solemnly. Lin Muyu also immediately gave an imperial military salute. General? Su Qin was dubious. He smiled and said, The top 2 of the 4 heroes of Lanyan are so young. The famous generals of the empire finally have successors. You 2 should work hard to practice, study the art of war, and contribute to the empire in the future. Yes, General. The 2 men who had just flirted with the princess put on a righteous look. They cupped their fists and saluted with the demeanor of a famous general. 4 days later they arrived at Lanyan City. On the way Zhang Wei rejoined the troops. The reason was that he wanted to go home to visit his seriously ill mother. But when he returned, his mother had recovered and was healthy, so he came back. Feng Jixing naturally smiled and did not speak. In his heart he was secretly cursing these two bastards. Even their lies were so ridiculous. Chapter 243. In Zetian Palace Hall, 12 coiled dragon pillars supported the glazed jade tiles of the main hall. The lustrous jade carvings on the floor reflected the light of the glazed lamps. In the afternoon, it was time for another court meeting for the officials to meet the emperor. Qin Jin stood in front of the throne with a joyful expression. When he saw Su Muyun, Qin Yin, Feng Jixing, and the others coming in from outside, the smile on his face became even wider. He opened his arms and said, "Xiaoyin, you're finally back." Qin Yin walked gracefully, her hands gently holding the tassels at the edge of her dress as she walked to her father's side. She stuck out her tongue and smiled mischievously. "Father, Xiaoyin is back." Qin Jin held his daughter's shoulder and asked with love in his eyes, "Did you encounter any danger along the way?" Qin Yin was startled. She thought of the terrifying assassin she met by the Rice River. The scene of her narrowly escaping death was still fresh in her mind. She couldn't help but tremble and said, "It's all right. Aren't I back alive? Imperial father, maternal grandfather also came back with me." Qin Jin nodded with a smile. He walked down the gilded steps and arrived in front of Su Muyun. He cupped his fists and said, "Duke Yun, Qin Jin greets you." "Duke Yun, it's been a long journey." Su Muyun hurriedly helped the emperor up and said with a smile, "Your Majesty, there's no need for such greetings. As the ruler of Yunzhong province, it's my duty to share your Majesty's worries. It's hateful that Hu Tianning minted Jining coins without permission and disregarded the empire's laws. He deserves to die. The attack on Sangnan province is a success. We've returned with Hu Tianning's head." Su Qin, who was behind him, walked forward with the gilded box and opened it. "Your Majesty, this is Hu Tianning's head." Qin Jin didn't even look at it. He nodded and said, "General Su Qin, you've worked hard. I'll send it to Muyu City after the reward." "Thank you, Your Majesty." Qin Jin said with concern, "Duke Yun, why don't you stay in Zetian Palace Hall today? In any case, there are still many rooms. Even if Duke Yun, General Su Qin, and General Su Yu bring their attendants to stay in Zetian Palace Hall, it won't be a problem. All of you are family, so don't treat me as an outsider. Just treat it as a homecoming." However, Su Muyun cupped his fists and said with a smile, "Your Majesty, we are all officials. How can we be so presumptuous? According to the ancestors' instructions, only Your Majesty, your concubines, and your children are allowed to stay in Zetian Palace. It's better for us to stay in the post house in the imperial capital." "Then, that's all we can do. Duke Yun, you should stay and drink with me tonight." This old subject receives the decree. In the afternoon, Qin Lei led a group of imperial guards to escort Su Muyun, Su Qin, and Su Yu to the post house to rest. Su Muyun didn't bring many guards with him, only 500 million Uruguayan peso city cavalry guards. This was to avoid arousing suspicion. After all, leading too many people into Lanyan City was equivalent to offending the emperor. As a two-generation meritorious official, Su Muyun naturally knew this well. In Zetian Palace, Qin Yin, Feng Jixing, Lin Muyu, Chu Huayin, and the others were still there. Lin Muyu and Chu Huayin reminisced for a while. When they talked about Chu Yao's recent situation, Chu Huayin smiled proudly and said, "Yao's alchemy skills, medical skills, and cultivation have improved a lot. It is said that she can already refine level 7 medicines. The great deacon of the spiritual medicine department is considering whether to promote Yao to one of the deacons of the spiritual medicine department." "Wow, Sister Chu Yao is so powerful now," Lin Muyu said happily. "Then I'll congratulate her first. Once she is promoted to a deacon of the spiritual medicine department, she will have a sufficient status in the capital." Chu Huayin chuckled, "No matter how powerful Yao is, she can't compare to you." Lin Muyu touched her nose and said very modestly, "I? Who do I think I am?" "Ah, don't be so modest. His Majesty will definitely reward you heavily for such a great achievement this time. Just wait and see." "I hope so." At this moment, Tang Xiaoxi arrived at Zetian Palace and was brought in by an attendant. She was dressed in red and her beautiful face had a refreshing smile. She said angrily, "Mu, you didn't even come to see me when you came back. Oh, your enemy is here. I'll take my leave first." Chu Huayin cupped his fists and smiled. Chu Huayin will take my leave." Lin Muyu didn't have time to greet him. She turned around and said to Tang Xiaoxi, "Didn't I just return to the capital to hand in the order? I can't find time to see you for the time being. On the other hand, Xiaoxi, you're quite well informed. You knew that I was back so quickly." Humph. Tang Xiaoxi crossed her arms in front of her chest, but her breasts were even more prominent. You're right. If it wasn't for the fact that everyone on Tongtian Street said that Duke Muyun and Her Highness Yin had returned to Lanyan City, I wouldn't have known that you were back too. Lin Muyu smiled apologetically. This mission was very confidential, so I didn't have time to inform you. Don't be angry. How was your cultivation while I was away? Tang Xiaoxi smiled faintly. I've already cultivated the 5th level of the Firefox seal. So fast. Congratulations, Xiaoxi. At this time, Qinin walked down the stairs and said with a smile, Xiaoxi, you're here too. Tang Xiaoxi pouted. Xiaoyin, you're too mean. You secretly went out with Mu and left me alone to cultivate in Lanyan City. Next time you must bring me along. Umph. Qinin pouted. You and I almost lost our lives in Daojiang and you still say that. What happened? Qinin briefly described the encounter with the man on Daojiang. At this time Chu Chu also came. He listened on the side and couldn't help but look grim. Your Highness, the person you met really did use black doqi. Yes, you and I saw it. Qinin nodded. Really you? Chu Chu confirmed again. Lin Muyu cupped her fists. Yes, Chu. His dark fighting energy is very powerful, but his swordsmanship is even more powerful. It's a swordsmanship that I have never seen before. I couldn't last more than 3 rounds under his sword. If it wasn't for the frost-armored dragon in Daojiang, I'm afraid that Xiaoyin and I would have died in Yunzhong province. His swordsmanship is very powerful? Chu Chu frowned. You Xiaoyin come with me? Yes. Qinin and Lin Muyu followed Chu Chu and left Zetian Palace Hall. Feng Jixing and Chu Huaying went to carry out their patrol mission. Tang Xiaoxi had nothing to do, so she followed them uninvited. The 4 of them walked along the Sovereign King's corridor and arrived at the library. The moment they entered the library, Chu Chu turned around and said to the library's official, Close the door. No one is allowed to enter without my order. Yes, Sir Chu Chu. With a squeak, the door was closed. Only the 4 of them were left in the library. The candlelight flickered, and it was indescribably quiet. Chu Chu stretched out his hand and said, Sit down and drink some tea. Tell grandfather more about that person. I want to know more. Yes. Although Lin Muyu and Qinin didn't know why Chu Chu was so nervous after hearing about that person, they knew that there must be something important hidden in it. Tang Xiaoxi didn't personally experience the assassination, so she obediently made tea while quietly listening to the 3 of them talk about the assassination. The other person who personally experienced it, Qinyan's golden rock swift wolf, was like a big dog crawling at the side. It wagged its tail and fawned on Tang Xiaoxi. This made Lin Muyu look down on it. This guy only knew how to act spoiled and cute in front of beauties. It should be killed immediately. You, other than his dark doqi and brilliant swordsmanship, what other characteristics does he have? Chu Chu asked. As for the others, Lin Muyu muttered to herself and tried hard to recall. She said, That's right, every time he used his energy to attack, his eyes would turn blood red, like the blood of the sunset. Chu Chu's body trembled slightly. And then? There didn't seem to be any other characteristics. However, he was very arrogant, as if he looked down on me and Xiaoyin. I don't know where he got his confidence from. That's right, we found an iron ruler in the ruins of a temple. This person came for this iron ruler. He said it was some kind of sacred weapon. Is that so? Chu Chu's eyes widened. And then where is this iron ruler? I refined it. Lin Muyu said with some embarrassment. At that time, thousands of horned dragons attacked me and him. He tore us apart and ate us. It was difficult for me to escape. My left arm was bitten, so I cut it off to escape. After losing an arm, I felt that this iron ruler had a strong life force, so I refined it. I didn't think that I would really reconstruct my left arm. What? Tang Xiaoxi put down the teacup and hurriedly held Lin Muyu's arm. She carefully observed it and raised her head in shock. Mu, your arm was broken before? Yes. Lin Muyu nodded. The arm that you see now is actually a new arm formed after my blood meridians and the iron ruler fused. Chu Chu stroked his white beard. His face was solemn. After you refined this iron ruler, did you obtain some kind of ability? Yes, the strength of my left arm has greatly increased. It seems that I can also condense an energy layer that can protect myself. Come, activate it and let Grandpa see. Yes. Lin Muyu stood up and walked far away from the table. Suddenly, her entire body was overflowing with doqi. With a shout, the faint sound of a dragon's roar could be heard. The image of a golden true dragon lingered around her left arm. Her entire arm was glowing with a translucent luster. Endless righteousness enshrouded it, making people have the urge to kneel down and worship it. This. Chu was dumbstruck. He couldn't hide the amazement and admiration in his eyes. You're really blessed by the heavens. You barely escaped death and still managed to obtain this kind of ancient divine power. Ancient divine power? Lin Muyu was surprised. Chu, is this considered ancient divine power? Yes, you still don't know the origin of this iron ruler? Yes, I really don't know. Chu said leisurely. Xiaoyin, go and get the records of the gods and demons from the deepest part of the library. Yes, it's the historical book written by Dong Hanshu 28,000 years ago. Yes, Chu. Chapter 244. Qin Yin brought a thick ancient book to the table and handed it to Chu. Chu placed it on the table and quickly flipped to page 17. He pointed at it and saw 9 diagrams, one of which was in the shape of an iron ruler. Chu asked, "You take a look. Isn't that iron ruler like this?" Lin Muyu moved closer to take a look and was dumbfounded. That's it? That's the iron ruler? Unfortunately, apart from the diagrams, Lin Muyu didn't recognize any of the words on the Book of Gods and Demons. It looked like Sanskrit, but it didn't seem like it either. It should be the ancient words that Qin had mentioned. Chu stroked his white beard and said, "There shouldn't be more than 10 people in the entire Shattered Cauldron realm who can understand this Book of Gods and Demons. When I was young, I followed my master and learned this so-called God realm language, so I know a thing or two about it. When I was in my 40s, I took the opportunity to flip through this Book of Gods and Demons, so I have some impression of it." Chu, just tell us where this iron ruler came from. Lin Muyu said anxiously. Chu couldn't help but smile and said, "Don't be anxious. Let me tell you first. There was a gap in the history of this continent. About 50,000 years ago, it was said that a meteorite fell from the sky and separated the continent. 50,000 years ago, all the civilizations were burned to the ground. Afterwards, it gradually evolved into the Shattered Cauldron realm we have today. Therefore, the history that we can see now only starts from 50,000 years ago. There's nothing before that." "What does that have to do with this iron ruler?" Qin blinked and asked. Chu smiled slightly and said, "Do you know that 50,000 years ago, we weren't the rulers of this continent?" "What?" Qin was shocked. "Then who was it?" "About?" Chu squinted his eyes and shook his head. "I don't know who it is either, but it might be another group of humans. Let's call them the pre-ancient humans for now. These pre-ancient humans worshipped the 9 great gods. Back then, the heaven realm had 9 gods of domination, and they called them the 9 great Buddhas. Each of the 9 gods of domination had a protective sacred weapon, which was the Tianchong demon blade, the glazed sword, the mysterious spiritual ruler, and so on. If I'm not wrong, the iron ruler that you refined was the mysterious spiritual ruler of the 9 great protector sacred weapons. It was the protective sacred weapon of Buddha Xian Nan, who was in charge of life and recovery among the 9 gods of domination. Buddha Xian Nan is also the Buddha Xianji that we worship today." Qin opened her mouth wide in astonishment. "Chu means, the iron ruler that you refined is actually the profound spiritual ruler of the 9 great guardian sacred weapons?" "That's right. Otherwise, how could we reconstruct his body?" Chu stroked his beard and said with a smile, "Ordinary divine weapons don't have such an ability at all." Lin Muyu squinted her eyes and said, "Since I refined the profound spiritual ruler, then, who is that assassin? How did he know about the profound spiritual ruler?" Chu's eyes lit up and said, "If I'm not wrong, this person is a descendant of the pre-ancient humans. He's also the guardian of the 9 great protector sacred weapons. 50,000 years ago, they were the masters of this continent." Tang Xiaoxi opened her mouth. "My God. Luckily this person was eaten by the horned dragon, otherwise Mu would be in danger." Chu couldn't help but laugh. "Xiaoxi, you're only worried about Yu's safety." Tang Xiaoxi blushed. I didn't." Lin Muyu's expression was solemn as she said, "Chu, could there be more descendants of the pre-ancient humans? This person is so powerful. If there really are more pre-ancient humans, I'm afraid the continent will change masters." "No." Chu shook his head and smiled. "There won't be too many of them. Otherwise they would have attacked the Qin Empire a long time ago. However, this group of pre-ancient humans has actually started to search for the 9 great protector sacred weapons. This is a warning. Perhaps we humans, who have dominated the continent for tens of thousands of years, should also be on our guard." Lin Muyu and Qin Yin looked at each other and saw a trace of worry in each other's eyes. At this moment, someone suddenly knocked on the door and said, "Chu, His Majesty summons Master Lin Muyu to the Zeibing Hall for an audience." "Okay, I'll go right away." Chu smiled faintly. "You, His Majesty summons you for an audience. Go quickly and make some preparations. It should be tonight's celebration banquet. Songnan province is now completely under His Majesty's control. Your great contribution cannot be replaced by anyone." Amen. Lin Muyu got up and went to the Zeibing Hall. This Zeibing Hall was located right behind the Zeitian Hall. It was also the place where the emperor received some commanders and generals. Summoning Lin Muyu in the Zeibing Hall, the meaning behind it was self-evident. "Knock knock." Lightly knocking on the door, Lin Muyu respectfully said, "Your Majesty, this humble one has arrived." "You come in." "Yes." She pushed the door open and entered. She saw Qin Jin holding a rusty saber with a solemn expression. When he turned around, his face showed that he had been through a lot, as if he had experienced a lot in this short moment. "Your Majesty, what business do you have with me?" Lin Muyu asked. "Call me Imperial Father?" Qin Jin said with a smile. "Yes, Imperial Father." "All right, you." Qin Jin walked forward and said, "Come with me. Imperial Father will show you a place." This is. After passing through the Zeitian Hall, there was a small pavilion at the back. However, there were 4 Imperial guards standing guard at the front. On the pavilion's simple and unadorned board, there were 3 large words written in flamboyant calligraphy: Soaring Clouds Pavilion. Soaring Clouds Pavilion? Lin Muyu said in surprise. "That's right." Qin Jin pushed the door open and entered. Instantly, a gust of cold wind blew from the Soaring Clouds Pavilion. When Lin Muyu stepped in, she saw that the Soaring Clouds Pavilion was very spacious. Ancient tables were placed in the center. On each table was a piece of armor, a weapon, and so on. Some weapons were long sabers, some were sharp swords, some were war hammers, and so on. Behind each table was a memorial tablet. Lin Muyu got closer and saw a line of large words written on the first memorial tablet. Spirit of the founding general Xiang Wentian. Xiang Wentian? Lin Muyu was stunned. The war god Xiang Wentian, Xiang Yu's ancestor? Yes. Qin Jin smiled faintly and pointed to the row of memorial tablets behind him. Soaring Clouds Pavilion is where the Qin Empire enshrines famous generals. Only famous generals with enough contributions can enter the Soaring Clouds Pavilion. The Qin Empire has had thousands of years of fortune, but only 26 famous generals have entered the Soaring Clouds Pavilion. Over the past 100 years of war, the divine Marquis Zheng Yifan and the border general Feng Yicheng have become members of the Soaring Clouds Pavilion. However, Zheng Yifan is still alive while Feng Yicheng has already died in battle. Lin Muyu took a closer look and realized that the person ranked second was Luo Tonghai, Luo Yu's ancestor. It was because of this famous general that Luo Yu joined the Longdan army camp. She wanted to become someone like her ancestor. As for Zheng Yifan, he was ranked 7th and Feng Yicheng was ranked 16th. She basically didn't know anyone else. Lin Muyu didn't have the time to study the empire's history at the moment. "I wonder why father brought me to the Soaring Clouds Pavilion?" Lin Muyu suddenly asked. Qin Jin laughed and said, "You heroes are created in troubled times. I think you should understand this logic. Moreover, you are a smart man. There are only you and father in the Soaring Clouds Pavilion. Don't tell me you still don't understand? The Qin Empire is about to fall into chaos. To the south of the Qinling Mountains, the feudal vassals of the 4 provinces all follow the lead of my elder brother, the Prince of Jinan, Qin Yi. I haven't seen this elder brother for many years. To the north of the Qinling Mountains, there are a total of 8 provinces. The North Ridge Province, South Ridge Province, and Earth Star Province are now under father's control. The other 5 provinces, Duke Lan is in charge of Seven Seas Province, Duke Yun is in charge of Cloud Province. Although Heaven's Pivot Province pays tribute every year, its military power is not under father's control. Lingdong Province is a remote place in the east. The land is barren, the population is sparse, and the military strength is less than 10,000. Tongtian Province is located at the northeast border, so it's inconvenient to travel. Even messenger birds can't fly there, so it's not under father's control. As he spoke, Qin Jin let out a long, sorrowful sigh. This empire. If any one of Qin Yi, Su Muyun, or Tang Lan were to rebel, I'm afraid the empire would be torn apart. Lin Muyu was startled. She stepped forward to hold Qin Jin's arm and said, "Father, it definitely won't happen. Duke Yun is loyal and generous. Although his son Su Qin is reckless, he's also loyal to his majesty. Cloud Province won't rebel, but Duke Lan of Seven Seas Province is Xiao Shi's grandfather. Xiao Shi and Xiao Yin have such a close relationship, so Seven Seas Province won't rebel either. In that case, with more than 600,000 troops loyal to father, I believe that the Prince of Jiangnan won't launch an invasion, right? Qin Jin smiled. You've seen through it. However, the hearts of men are separated by a layer of skin. Under the temptation of the throne, how many people can maintain their loyalty? Is father worried about Zheng Yifan? Zheng Yifan. Qin Jin sneered. Zheng Yifan is just a dead dog. There's nothing to fear. The person I'm most worried about isn't him. Then? Qini? Or Duke Lan and Duke Yun? Sai, let's not talk about this anymore. Qin Jin placed a hand on Lin Muyu's shoulder. His eyes were full of deep meaning as he said, Father brought you to Soaring Clouds Pavilion to tell you that one day, Father hopes that you's name will appear in Soaring Clouds Pavilion. Father knows that it's his destiny, but time isn't on his side. I'm afraid that you'll be the only one who can accompany Xiao Yin in the future. It won't be easy for Xiao Yin to protect this empire. You, Feng Jixing, Qin Lei and Chu Huaying are father's hopes. Do you know that? Lin Muyu immediately took a step back. She placed her sword and scabbard on the ground. She knelt on one knee in front of her godfather and said solemnly, Lin Muyu hereby swears that I'll never betray Xiao Yin in this life. A satisfied smile appeared on Qin Jin's face. In that case, father can rest assured. Get up and prepare for tonight's banquet. This is a celebration banquet for you, Su Qin and Xiao Yin. Yes, father. By the way, you've made a great contribution this time, but father can't give you any rewards or promotions. If you're promoted too quickly, you'll become the target of public criticism. Do you understand? Yes, father is wise. As for Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi, their tables were arranged to the left of Lin Muyu, so that it would be convenient for him to protect her. A little further away were the tables of Chu Huaying, Zhang Wei, Wei Chou and the others. Among the imperial guards, those whose cultivation had stepped into the heaven realm had already been seated, and all of them had brought their weapons with them. As for the civil and military officials who had come from outside, they had to remove their weapons before entering the Zetian Palace Hall. In fact, even Su Qin, Xiang Yu, Zhen Yifan, and the others were not exempted. This was the rule and no one could be exempted. Not long after, the celebration banquet began. A group of palace maids danced in the center of the hall, and the musicians played a tune. Qin Jin raised his cup with a smile and said, Songnan province's Hu Tianing minted coins without permission, and he has long had the intention to rebel. Now that the matter has been exposed, Duke Yun, Her Highness Qin Yin, General Su Qin, General Lin Muyu, and the others have made great contributions in quelling the rebellion. My beloved officials, let's raise our cups and celebrate. Everyone raised their cups and drained them in one go. Lin Muyu was a little slower and her gaze fell on Xiang Yu. Although Xiang Yu was full of smiles, when he looked at Su Qin, the fleeting murderous intent in his eyes didn't escape Lin Muyu's eyes. Just the table in front of Lin Muyu alone was already filled with 6 pots of dishes. It was simply too sumptuous. Lin Muyu observed the actions of the people at the banquet as he ate heartily. It had been a long time since he had eaten such sumptuous and delicious food. Even the fine wine was a tribute from the Zetian Palace Hall, and it was very tasty and fragrant. Tang Xiaoxi and Qin Yin were chatting happily, and they had already forgotten about Lin Muyu. This was good as well as he could focus on eating now. Feng Jixing, Chu Huayin, and the others didn't drink any wine. Their tiger-like eyes looked at everything around them, intentionally or otherwise. Zhang Wei, on the other hand, was a boorish person. He gulped down half a pot of wine, let out a burp, and continued drinking. Not far away, Chu Chu and Lei Hong's seats were arranged next to Su Muyun's. The 3 old officials of the empire were also chatting happily, and they would even look in the direction of Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi from time to time. They seemed to be discussing something about them. However, the banquet was too noisy, and even if Lin Muyu released her spiritual pulse technique, she couldn't hear what they were talking about. Not long after, Lei Hong came to Lin Muyu's side with a wine cup in hand. He reached out and pulled out a rabbit thigh from the golden pot, took a bite and said with a smile, "The food from the Zetian Palace Hall is still delicious." Lin Muyu was speechless and said, "This is mine. Great Deacon, you have some on your table too. Other people's food is even more delicious." Lei Hong took another bite and said, You, come and have a drink with Grandpa. Okay. Lin Muyu raised his cup and said with a smile, Great Deacon Lei Hong, may Grandpa live as long as the mountains and live forever. Okay. Lei Hong happily drank his wine and then looked up at him and said, Now that winter and spring have passed, there are no more missions in the Eagle Nest camp. Shouldn't you make a trip back to the Divine Temple? The newcomers in the Divine Temple are looking forward to meeting Lin Muyu, one of the 4 heroes of Lan Yen. I see. Lin Muyu smiled and said, Okay, I will let Wei Chou handle the matters of the Eagle Nest camp, and I will go back to the Divine Temple to stay for half a month. What do you think, Great Deacon? Lei Hong patted his shoulder and said, Then Grandpa will go back to the Divine Temple to gather everyone after the banquet ends, and we will wait for your return. The banquet went on for more than 2 hours and many people were already drunk. Qin Jin was not feeling well, so he left the banquet early, and Qin Yin presided over the banquet. It was time for the Crown Prince to interact more with the officials, or else who would submit to such a beautiful girl when he took over the throne in the future. When the banquet ended, Lin Muyu had Wei Chou, Xiahou Sang, and the others stay at Zetian Palace for the night, and they were responsible for the safety of His Majesty and the princess. Lin Muyu escorted Tang Xiaoxi back to the Duke's mansion. On the long corridor outside Zetian Palace, a group of people walked side by side with their horses. Lin Muyu, Tang Xiaoxi, Su Qin, and Su'er were among them. Duke Yun sat in the carriage and he was old and frail and couldn't bear the torment. Will Uncle and Aunt Si really stay at the post house tonight? Lin Muyu asked. Su'er chuckled and said, Of course. There is no Duke's mansion in Lan Yen City, so we can only stay at the post house. Tang Xiaoxi giggled and said, If Aunt Si doesn't mind, you can accompany Duke Yun to stay at the Duke's mansion of the 7 Seas. We have many empty rooms and we have enough servants. Su'er laughed and said, No need to trouble Princess Shi, we will leave early tomorrow morning, and we can just stay at the post house tonight. Alright, you have to escort Princess Shi back to the mansion. She only brought 4 guards with her and that's not enough. It just so happens that you are going back to the Divine Temple, so it's on the way. Lin Muyu nodded and said, Okay, I understand. After watching Duke Yun, Su Qin and Su Yu return to the post house, Lin Muyu escorted Tang Xiaoxi back to the Duke's mansion, and then he returned to the Divine Temple. When he returned to the Divine Temple, he saw the spiritual medicine department opposite, and he couldn't help but think of Chu Yao's beautiful and warm face, and he couldn't help but feel a wave in his heart. It's okay, I have time to visit Chu Yao. When he arrived at the gate of the Divine Temple, he said respectfully, I'm back, please let me in. The 2 Divine Temple guards immediately recognized him, and they were overjoyed and said, Lord Lin Muyu is back? Open the gate, let me in. After entering the Divine Temple, Deacon Guyang was waiting in the long corridor with a smile, and said, You are finally willing to return to the Divine Temple? Let's go to the main hall, the Great Deacon and everyone is waiting for you. Okay, thank you, Deacon Guyang. Guyang led the way and all the way to the main hall of the Divine Temple. He realized that there was a large group of people standing there. Almost all the deacons, instructors and sparring partners were already there, and they actually didn't sleep in the middle of the night, as if they were all waiting for Lin Muyu's return. Big brother Lin Muyu. Qin Yin smiled and greeted from afar. Lin Muyu also smiled and nodded, and then followed Guyang to the direction of Lei Hong. Just like that, they stood beside Lei Hong's great deacon throne, and everyone was solemnly waiting for something. This made Lin Muyu's heart pound, and looking at this atmosphere, it didn't seem like they were welcoming a sparring partner, but more like a ceremony. But what kind of ceremony could this be? At this time, Lei Hong lightly stood up and said with a clear smile, As everyone knows, the Divine Temple of the Empire has a Divine Temple branch in every province, and with the Divine Temple in the capital as the headquarters, the Divine Temple has 2 deacons, 12 deacons. Currently, the other great deacon has been wandering for many years, and his whereabouts are unknown. Among the 12 deacons, 8 deacons are in charge of the Divine Temple branches in the major provinces, and the capital headquarters only has 4 deacons. Because Deacon Zhen Fang's Qi was destroyed, he resigned from his position, and the 4 deacons are lacking one, so today I have decided to promote one of the 4 heroes of Lan Yen, Lin Muyu, to one of the 4 deacons of the Divine Temple headquarters. Lin Muyu was startled. Great Deacon, I don't have much time on normal days, this isn't too good, right? There's nothing bad about it. Lei Hong patted his shoulder and said with a smile, From today onwards, Lin Muyu is no longer just a gold star sparring master, but one of our 4 great deacons. His main responsibility is to teach Gold Star instructors and Gold Star sparring masters all kinds of combat skills. I wonder if anyone has any objections. As a Gold Star instructor, Qin Yin immediately cupped his fists and said, Big brother Lin Muyu's strength is above my older brother Qin Lei's, and with the 10th grade Green Gourd martial spirit defeating the 1st grade God binding chains, he is well deserved. With him as a deacon, I, Qin Yin, am the first to be sincerely convinced. Another Gold Star instructor also cupped his fists and said, Lord Lin Muyu is well deserved to be a deacon. Very quickly, everyone expressed their agreement. Lei Hong turned around and smiled, You see, it's well deserved, you're definitely going to be a deacon. Lin Muyu was extremely helpless and could only nod his head. All right then, I'll give it a try first. That's right, men, bring Deacon Lin's new armor over. Yes. Chapter 246. The deacons of the Holy Hall were usually old, so it was impossible for an old man like Gu Yang to wear such heavy armor. Only young deacons like Lin Muyu and Zhen Fang would wear such armor. In this world, the use of armor couldn't be ignored. Not only could it provide a great defense, it could also allow cultivators to avoid some arrows and sword attacks. Although Lin Muyu's battle armor could block ordinary sword attacks, it would still consume her battle chi. In a real battle, it was better not to use battle armor if possible. The deacon's armor was still silver gray, but the emblem was no longer a golden shield but a golden leaf. The golden leaf represented life and power, an existence higher than that of an instructor and sparring partner. Holding the new armor in her hand, Lin Muyu bowed and said with a smile, Thank you for your kindness, great deacon. I, Lin Muyu, will not let down the holy temple. That's good. Rest early. Tomorrow morning, you will be working for the holy temple as a deacon. Lei Hong said with a smile. I know. Everyone dispersed. It was already late at night and everyone was tired. Lin Muyu was assigned to another room. He placed the armor in place but didn't go to bed. Instead, he took out a set of black clothes from his Cosmos bag. It was a night suit plus a mask. He bought it at the Imperial City's trading firm last time, and now it came in handy. After changing his clothes, Zhang Xian strapped the dragon spirit sword to his back and pushed open the back door of the room. The side hall was quiet and empty. Zhang Xian leaped up and activated the falling star steps. His entire body landed lightly on the tiles and flew away silently. After a few leaps and bounds, he left the holy temple. Lin Muyu's goal was the post house. That's right, something was bound to happen in the post house tonight. For Lin Muyu, the biggest task tonight was to protect Su Qin. That's right, not only did Su Qin kill Xiang Yu's uncle, Hu Tianning, he even killed Xiang Yu's biological mother in the chaotic battle. She was Xiang Yu's only relative in this world. With Xiang Yu's unruly nature, how could he possibly tolerate such an irreconcilable hatred? During the day, Xiang Yu had kept a low profile and did not act up, but at night, Xiang Yu would definitely not let the matter rest. With his current strength, it would not be too difficult for him to silently kill Su Qin, who was only at the first firmament of the heaven realm. In fact, it might even be done in an instant. If Su Qin died, Su Muyun would definitely vent his anger on Xiang Yu. At that time there would be a lot of trouble. Moreover, Su Qin was Qin Yin's uncle. Although he was reckless and cruel, he was still Qin Yin's uncle, so he had to ask. In the middle of the night, the sky above Lanyan City was gloomy and gloomy. Fortunately, the lights from the ground allowed Lin Muyu to see everything on the roof. After activating the spiritual pulse technique and hiding his aura, he carefully stepped on the roof of the post house with his cloth shoes. After a few minutes, he found Su Qin's residence. It was on the leftmost third floor of the post house. Outside the door, 8 soldiers of Muyu City stood guard. Su Muyun and Su Yu's rooms were a little further away. Lin Muyu sat down next to the chimney and lay there quietly. This place was not easy to find, but it was the closest to Su Qin's room. He could reinforce them at any time. This night he waited here. In his left arm, a vigorous ancient divine power was surging. This divine power had already merged with his true dragon bloodline, and its power was infinite. Lin Muyu was even a little excited. He was afraid that Xiang Yu would not come tonight. If Xiang Yu did not come, he would lose this great opportunity to challenge Xiang Yu again. After an unknown amount of time, there was a sudden squeak. The sound of the door opening came from the third floor of the post house. A person with a strange voice laughed in a sharp voice. The women that the general needs have been brought. There are a total of 3. Do you want to check them? 2 guards walked forward and raised the lanterns in the corridor. They looked at the faces of the three women and smiled. Yo, they look pretty, but are they safe? Our girls are all carefully selected. Don't worry. No, we have to be absolutely safe. We have to search them and confirm that they do not have any weapons on them before we can enter the general's room. Then let's search them. Okay. One of the guards walked forward and placed his palm on the waist of one of the women. He slowly slid his palm across her body to check if there were any hidden weapons. However, the woman giggled and said, "Sir, slow down, you're making my heart itch." The guard's heart was also stirred. He pinched the woman's buttocks hard and said, "Little slut, you can go now." Next. Lin Muyu, who was lying next to the chimney, couldn't help but frown as she endured the cold wind. She seemed to have gained a better understanding of Su Qin. This general is really unwilling to be lonely. He only stayed for one night in Lanyan City, yet he can't bear to live without a woman. Soon, the three women entered Su Qin's room. Not long after, the sound of moaning could be heard coming from the room. The guards were still standing there with a solemn expression, as if nothing had happened in the room. After nearly an hour, it finally stopped. The lights in Su Qin's room were blown out. He had probably gone to rest. Lin Muyu was still lying next to the chimney. She released the spirit pulse technique, and searched for all the auras nearby. When the sound of snoring came from Su Qin's room, Lin Muyu frowned. She even began to wonder if she had guessed wrong. Would Jianghu wait until Su Qin and the others left Lanyan City before making a move? This shouldn't be the case. Once Su Qin left Lanyan City, the thousands of heavy cavalry he left in the dragon-seeking forest would accompany and protect him. At that time, it would be even more difficult for Jianghu to assassinate the general first. Just as Lin Muyu's heart was beating like a drum, a tyrannical aura suddenly appeared within the range of the spirit pulse technique. Very strong. Jianghu is here. Lin Muyu immediately became alert. She opened her palm and grasped the hilt of the dragon spirit sword. 2 minutes later, a black shadow appeared on the roof in the distance. The newcomer was dressed in a tight outfit and carried a heavy sword in his hand. With a leap, he floated down from the opposite roof to the third floor of the courier hostel. But there were 8 Muyu City cavalry guards in the corridor on the third floor. However, a scene that Lin Muyu did not expect happened. The newcomer shook the blade in his hand, and with a shwa 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 sound, rays of sword light fell down. The 8 Muyu City cavalry guards fell to the corridor almost without a sound, making soft banging sounds. Not good, it's too fast. Lin Muyu turned over and jumped down from the roof. The newcomer had already pushed open the door of Su Qin's room. Without a sound, he raised his sword and slashed at Su Qin. Shwa! The biting cold sword energy swept past, leaving a trail of flames. When Lin Muyu stepped into the room, she saw Su Qin holding the long sword and retreating to a corner of the room. On the bed, 2 maids were hugging the quilt, trembling with fear. The quilt was stained with blood, and one of the maids was lying on the bed. Her head had been cut off by the assassin's sword. Die! The assassin heavily stabbed out with his sword, and with a ding sound, Su Qin's long sword was knocked away. His left fist was wrapped in flames, and it landed heavily on Su Qin's chest. Suddenly, the sound of bones breaking could be heard. Even someone as strong as Su Qin couldn't block a blow from the opponent? This time, Lin Muyu was even more certain that the assassin was Jianghu. This fire cloud art was his specialty. Peng! With a loud noise, Su Qin was punched through the wall and fell out of the courier hostel like a kite with a broken string. Jianghu still wanted to rush down and deliver a blow, but he felt a cold wind behind him. It was the sound of a sword cutting through the air. Jianghu suddenly turned around and parried with his 2 swords. He let out a shout and summoned his martial soul. The flaming stepping fire tiger form lingered around his arms. With a roar, he swept out his sword. The blade was covered with flaming lotuses. It was the first attack of the chaotic 9 strikes, chaotic fire lotus. Lin Muyu quickly moved her left hand, and the golden gourd came out of her body. The wall of the gourd blocked the chaotic fire lotus. Peng! With a loud noise, the two quickly separated and took a few steps back. This time, Lin Muyu and Xiangyu's hasty attack were actually evenly matched. It was not one-sided like before. When the golden gourd came out, Xiangyu didn't need to think to know who the person in front of him was. Lin Muyu also knew who he was. Neither of them pointed it out, and without a word they launched a second attack. Chaotic force lingered around Xiangyu's body. He held his sword with both hands and a flaming tornado condensed around him. It crushed the floor without any scruples. In the blink of an eye, the energy had already penetrated the floor. The residents on the second floor cried out in alarm and fled in panic. As for Lin Muyu, she held her sword fearlessly. Streaks of lightning surged on the dragon spirit sword. Without waiting for Xiangyu's chaotic tornado to completely condense, she leaped forward and attacked. Boom! An explosion erupted from the third floor of the courier hostel. After this attack, Xiangyu stood steadily in the air. Streaks of battle energy revolved under his feet, and he maintained his posture in the air. However, Lin Muyu was shaken to the point where she retreated a few steps with her sword. She slammed into the wall in a sorry state. Xiangyu let out a violent roar and switched from defense to offense. His long sword swept out with the energy of the chaotic tornado. Seeing that this sword was about to cut her in half, Lin Muyu naturally wasn't going to sit and wait for death. She raised her left arm, and the form of a golden true dragon circled around her. Golden scales quickly condensed, and it looked like a large dragon armor shield. Then she let out a low roar and activated the second element Profound Force, which directly blasted towards Xiangyu's blade. True Dragon Arm plus 2 Luminaries Demonic Dance. Boom! The flames quickly crumbled, as did the fourth strike of Xiangyu's chaotic 9 strikes. At the same time, Lin Muyu's fist landed heavily on his chest, and a resounding thump rang out as a small piece of his battle armor was shattered, but it was only an excruciating pain. After retreating a few steps, Xiangyu didn't say anything. He held his long sword horizontally, and a series of black holes appeared between his arms. This was the prelude to the sixth attack, Chaotic Annihilation. Lin Muyu didn't dare to be negligent. She lowered her blade, and she activated her true dragon essence flames and helix break again. At the same time, she summoned the fourth element with a furious roar. A series of ghostly god constellations appeared around her, and they all surged toward her long sword. Just like that, she controlled her long sword and charged towards Xiangyu's ultimate attack. Boom! The sound of an explosion reverberated through the air, and the entire second and third floors of the post house were instantly razed to the ground. The golden gourd martial soul and the fiery red stepping fire tiger martial soul lit up the night sky, and they contended against each other for a long 10 seconds. Suddenly the power was withdrawn and released, and an extremely powerful force rushed toward Lin Muyu's body. She couldn't help but throw up a mouthful of blood as she retreated and fell into a pile of rubble. Ugh! Xiangyu also retreated several steps and a streak of blood seeped from the corner of his mouth. A fierce light flickered in his eyes. He knew that if he didn't kill Lin Muyu today, it would probably be very difficult for him to kill this brat whose cultivation had advanced by leaps and bounds in the future. But right at this moment, torches rose in the post house's courtyard, and a group of soldiers with heavy bows rushed over in the distance. They shouted, "The assassin is here. Kill him." Whoosh whoosh whoosh, sharp arrows flew everywhere, and Xiangyu let out an indignant roar before disappearing into the night. Sharp arrows also shot toward the nocturnal Lin Muyu. She didn't summon her martial soul again, and only used her battle armor to block the arrows. She raised her long sword and blasted open the wall behind her. Then she activated the falling star step and disappeared from everyone's sight at a speed faster than Xiangyu. Su Qin's qi and blood were tumbling in his body. As he ran, he felt a faint uneasiness in his heart. Although Su Qin's life was saved, Xiangyu's current cultivation had probably reached the sanctuary realm. Sure enough, as Chu Chu once said, Xiangyu would become the first powerhouse in hundreds of years to step into the sanctuary realm before the age of 40. Chapter 247. Throughout the night, the news that General Su Qin of Muyu City had been assassinated and narrowly escaped death spread everywhere in Lanyan City. Everyone was talking about it, and some eyes fell on Xiangyu, the commander of the military police battalion. It was well known that he was the one with the most motive to kill, but Xiangyu had enough witnesses. More than a dozen personal guards of the military police battalion could prove that Xiangyu did not step out of the military tent for the whole night. Even a native dog they kept could prove it. In the morning, the holy temple was peaceful. After a night of treatment, Lin Muyu's internal injuries had mostly healed. At this time, she stepped out of the room in the armor of a holy temple deacon, and entered the holy temple's dining hall. Even the cook seemed to be respectful and asked, "Deacon Lin, would you like more vegetables or more meat?" Lin Muyu smiled faintly, "Sorry to trouble you as usual." "Yes." A bowl of vegetable soup and 2 steamed buns. This was Lin Muyu's breakfast, but it was basically what he ate when he was a sparring partner, so it did not matter. He took the food and glanced around and finally sat on a rotten wooden table in the corner. This table was badly eaten by insects and the legs of the table were shaking. Sitting opposite was a Bronze Star sparring partner, Qin Xiling, whom he had not seen for a long time. Xiling, long time no see. Lin Muyu greeted him with a bright smile. Qin Xiling was startled and hurriedly stood up and said respectfully, Deacon Lin Muyu, why are you so nervous? Lin Muyu took a bite of the steamed bun and looked up at him. Sit down and eat. It will be the morning training soon. If you don't eat, how will you have the strength to participate in the training? Hurry up and eat. Qin Xiling was startled and said carefully, now that you are a deacon should not be associated with an Iron Star sparring partner. You, Lin Muyu glanced at him, then tore the bun and threw it into the vegetable soup and said, I am not happy to hear that, Xiling. We are all staff members of Temple, we are all colleagues in my eyes, there is no difference in status, just eat your meal. I am still me, it is just that I have returned to Temple after training outside. Qin Xiling nodded gratefully, and let's eat. It was as if, in Qin Xiling's eyes, for a deacon of the temple to be willing to eat at the same table with him was a great honor. In his eyes, the golden leaf temple insignia on Lin Muyu's collar was so unattainable, so unattainable. After the meal, he and Qin Xiling walked side by side on the corridor towards the training hall. Just at this time, Guiyang walked over from afar and said, Are you used to living in the temple again? Lin Muyu cupped her fists and bowed, Good morning, Deacon Guiyang. Okay. Guiyang glanced at Qin Xiling and said, Sparring Master Qin, I have some things to say to Deacon Lin. Go to the trial hall first. Qin Xiling cupped his fists and said respectfully, Yes, Deacon Guiyang. After Qin Xiling left, Guiyang took a deep look at Lin Muyu and said, There are rumors on the streets that last night, an assassin with tyrannical cultivation went to the courier house to assassinate General Su Qin. However, he failed because of the obstruction of another person with extraordinary cultivation. Someone said that they saw someone fighting in the night sky with a golden gourd. This matter has something to do with you? Lin Muyu touched her nose and said with a smile, Deacon Guiyang said there is, so there is. By the way, how is Su Qin's condition? Guiyang muttered, It is said that he is seriously injured, and his condition is unknown for the time being. Duke Muyun was furious. This morning he left Lanyan City with his troops and returned to Muyu City. It is said that Imperial Army Commander Feng Jixing led 5,000 elite cavalry to protect him. I see. Tell me honestly, who was the one who tried to assassinate Su Qin last night? Was it Commander Xiangyu? Lin Muyu smiled faintly, Since Deacon Guiyang has already guessed it, why ask me? I just want you to confirm it. So what if I confirm it? As long as Xiangyu denies it, my words are one-sided, so I would rather not say anything. Grandpa Guiyang, what do you think? Guiyang smiled and patted him on the shoulder, saying, Yu is indeed a clever and incisive person. Let's go, today is your first day as a deacon, and also your first day of teaching the instructors. I still have to teach? Yes, you are a second heavenly stage powerhouse, a heavenly king stage powerhouse. Don't you think you are already standing at the peak of the temple? If you don't teach, are you going to let those earth stage people teach? All right then. Lin Muyu was filled with helplessness. There was nothing much for him to teach. The demonic noise fist and green rock armor were Chu Chu's secret skills, so he definitely couldn't teach them. The imperial sword technique was too profound, and these instructors might not be able to write it down. Furthermore, the imperial sword technique was something he had painstakingly learned from the Sword Elder, so Lin Muyu didn't want to teach them everything he knew. As for the 7-planet Shen energy, there was no need to say anything. Furthermore, these instructors most likely wouldn't be able to learn it with their talent. Then he would teach them the basics of the sword. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh inwardly. He still remembered an ancient game called Legend of Mir, where the common skills for warriors were the basics of the sword. The first skill they had to learn was to increase their accuracy. His own basic sword technique was derived from the Imperial Wind Sword technique in actual combat. He believed that it would be of great benefit to these instructors. When Lin Muyu arrived at the training hall, Qin Yin, Li Mingqi, Zheng Shanhe and the other Gold Star, Silver Star, Copper Star and Iron Star instructors were already waiting there excitedly. Guiyang held a scroll in his hand and said with a smile, This morning, Deacon Lin Muyu will teach everyone. Come, you will greet everyone and then tell us what I've taught everyone this morning. Lin Muyu strode to the center of the training hall and cupped his fists towards everyone. He said calmly, To be honest, since everyone is able to enter the temple and become a sparring instructor, I'm sure you all have some secret skills. Lin Muyu is apprehensive, so I can only teach everyone the basics of the sword. I hope everyone doesn't mind. Qin Yin said with a smile. Big brother, you're the champion of the sword duel assembly. In terms of sword techniques, you're already unparalleled in the world. Why be so humble? Lin Muyu couldn't help but blush. Qin Yan's words really made him unable to accept it. Especially after the battle between Dao Jiang and the mysterious assassin, Lin Muyu no longer had any confidence in his sword techniques. That mysterious assassin broke his Imperial Wind Sword technique with one strike and defeated him within 3 moves. This kind of disparity was really too great. Cupping his hands, he didn't say anything more. The dragon spirit sword behind his back moved without any wind and was unsheathed with a clang. It spun in the air and landed in Lin Muyu's hand. A plain and ordinary sword swiftly pierced downwards. The ripples from the air being sliced apart could already be seen with the naked eye. Although this sword was plain and ordinary, it had an awe-inspiring aura, giving everyone a feeling that it was hard to parry. Although the sword technique was simple, the sword intent was not. Gold Star instructor Zheng Shanhe was slightly startled and said, Deacon Lin's sword technique may be simple and honest, but the sword momentum is heavy and vigorous. It's not simple at all. Lin Muyu smiled slightly. Stepping on the Imperial Wind Sword technique's wind character formula, she nimbly leaped forward and suddenly pierced forward. She took more than 10 steps, but the sword light constantly refracted frightening rays of light in the surroundings. It could be imagined that if she were to charge and kill in the midst of an army of thousands, at least over 10 people would die under Lin Muyu's sword in these dozen steps. Formation breaking style. Lin Muyu said indifferently, it's only created for killing people. The method is simple, but it's very practical against ordinary soldiers. The group of instructors nodded their heads, not fully understanding. In fact, many people didn't even clearly see Lin Muyu's steps and the detailed angle of her wrist rotation. It was really too fast. In 5 seconds she slashed out at least 20 times. Such a speed was simply impossible for ordinary people to achieve. After a set of sword technique dance, Lin Muyu suddenly raised her hand and the long sword returned to its sheath by itself. Streams of battle chi enshrouded her body, causing her sacred temple cloak to gently sway. The aura of an expert was undoubtedly revealed. Good. Qin Yin clapped his hands and cheered, causing many of the dumbstruck instructors to cheer as well. What followed next was the specific guidance process. Lin Muyu had become the Sacred Temple's sword technique instructor. The Qin Empire's 6 arts of the martial way were sword, cavalry, spear, knife, axe, archery. The sword was ranked first, which was enough to show how highly it was valued. As a sword technique instructor, Lin Muyu's position was naturally extraordinary. She spent the entire morning personally teaching the instructors. In the afternoon, she watched the instructors and sparring partners train while she meditated in a corner of the training hall, holding the dragon spirit sword. In his mind, the fight with the mysterious assassin that day appeared. The most important reason why he was utterly defeated was because he didn't understand the opponent's sword technique. Furthermore, the mysterious assassin's blade seemed to have a powerful suction force. It was precisely this suction force that caused him to lose so quickly. However, he couldn't understand it no matter how he thought about it. Where did this suction force come from? Buzz. With a light flip of his palm, the dragon spirit sword slowly began to spin rapidly in the air. This was the effect of the spiral force. Lin Muyu's heart suddenly lit up. That's right, the spiral force could cause the dragon spirit sword to spin, but if this spiral force no longer appeared as a spiral force, then wouldn't it be possible to use the spiral force to suck the opponent's weapon? It was easy to say but very difficult to do. For the entire afternoon, Lin Muyu tried time and time again to use the collision of Do Chi to form a spiral force. However, it didn't seem to be very ideal. Until after dinner, when he tried to condense 3 spiral forces to break through, the tip of the blade suddenly produced an extremely powerful suction force, actually causing the air to emit a sharp whistling sound. Filled with excitement, he couldn't wait to find his training target, Qin Xiling. The dumbstruck Qin Xiling held a metal sword and looked at Lin Muyu in astonishment, saying, Deacon Lin, how can a mere copper star sparring partner like me be your opponent? Lin Muyu laughed lightly, no problem, we won't risk our lives. Xiling, just use your longsword to attack. Qin Xiling shouted in a low voice. The foxtail grass martial spirit came out of his body and lingered on the sword's edge. With a xiao sound, the iron sword broke through the wind and came over. After all, his cultivation was at the 3rd layer of the human realm, so it was still remarkable. However, in Lin Muyu's eyes, this sword was way too slow, as if it was moving in slow motion. This was probably because of the disparity between their cultivation realms, right? The dragon spirit sword let out a light cry. Lin Muyu lightly flipped his wrist, and immediately, 3 invisible spiral forces appeared around the dragon spirit sword. The long sword quickly twisted, and like a dragon twisting around Qin Ziling's iron sword, the spiral forces whistled. When Lin Muyu suddenly pulled back his sword, the sword in Qin Ziling's hand instantly flew out of his hand, and with a dang sound, it pierced into the wall behind him. This, Qin Ziling was dumbstruck. What kind of sorcery is this? Chapter 248. It was noon, so it was time to go out and eat. I want to see who can win over our Spirit Medicine Division's #1 beauty. Lin Muyu respectfully bowed and turned to leave. Chu Yao held onto Lin Muyu's arm, and a burst of bell-like laughter made Luo Bin feel both love and hate. Turning to look at the two's backs, Luo Bin's face was full of jealousy and hatred as he said, "This woman? I will definitely have her." The iron sword rolled far away on the ground. Qin Ziling stood there dumbstruck. "Deacon Lin, what kind of technique is that? It's like a demonic art, and I will work hard." "Ah, of course not. Sister Chu Yao, let me treat you to lunch. Let's go out and eat something good." "Me too." Chu Yao turned around and gently held onto Lin Muyu's hand. She said with a smile, "You come with me. Sister has something to show you." "I am indebted to my superior's love." He followed Chu Yao out of the refining room and followed the green corridor of the Spirit Medicine Division to the greenhouse. There was no one around, so Chu Yao smiled and said, "All right, watch carefully." Lin Muyu's left arm suddenly emitted a golden light, and a golden true dragon circled around her arm. Lin Muyu raised her arm and smashed it down. Pung! The pear blossom sword was forcefully pierced into the ground, and the sword didn't even reach the hilt. The energy from Hao Rant's spiral break also dissipated. Lin Muyu was completely dumbfounded. He knew better than anyone how difficult it was to practice the spiraling break that used the Imperial Fire Sword as the foundation. But in such a short time, Chu Yao had actually managed to practice it. Although its might was far from the Dragon Flame spiraling break, it was still extremely terrifying. Not only had her alchemy skills improved by leaps and bounds, even her martial arts cultivation had advanced by leaps and bounds. With Chu Yao's strength, she should be able to enter the temple and become a gold star sparring master, right? Lin Muyu saw this and pulled out the dragon spirit sword, thrusting forward. 3 spiraling energies trembled around the blade, quickly locking onto the pear blossom sword. But the power of the spiral break was too strong, and with Lin Muyu's sudden pull, the sword still carried 30% of its power as it flew towards his chest. "You!" Luo Bin was so angry that his face turned purple. He couldn't stand being humiliated like this in front of a group of subordinates, but he had to endure it. After all, he couldn't beat them. The spiritual medicine department's long corridor was filled with flowers and plants. It was far more romantic than the dignified atmosphere in the temple. Chu Yao and Lin Muyu walked side by side, chatting happily. It was as if the entire spiritual medicine department was filled with laughter. Haha. However, the flames were getting stronger and stronger, and the pear blossom sword had reached a point where it had no choice but to attack. Although Qin Ziling's strength was shallow, he was well versed in martial arts. He had seen techniques that could seize an opponent's weapon, but he had never seen a technique that could seize an opponent's weapon so invisibly. It was as if an invisible hand had forcefully snatched the iron sword from his hand. Lin Muyu smiled confidently. "This is the greenhouse, and it's not good for an attendant of the spiritual medicine department like you to destroy the greenhouse. Aim this attack at me." "It's fine, just come at me." At the side, an alchemist said in a low voice, "Attendant, lower your voice. Wasn't it painful enough when Chu Huayin beat you last time?" "You." This time, Qin Ziling didn't stab straight ahead. Instead, he slashed down from above. Luo Bin smiled. "Since you and Lin Muyu aren't lovers, why won't you accept me?" Luo Bin snorted coldly. I won't go." Chu Yao stuck out her tongue and said with a red face, "It's just 3 stone walls." Luo Bin looked at the two of them strangely and said, "Chu Yao, as one of the spiritual medicine department's attendants, you don't know when to stop. Lin Muyu is regarded as the emperor's godson and has close relations with Her Highness Qin Yin. Furthermore, he has a good relationship with Princess Shi. Everyone in Lanyan City is saying that the person Lin Muyu will marry in the future will definitely be Princess Shi, but you are still with him. Are you willing to be the third person?" As for the name of this technique, Lin Muyu had already thought of it. She would call it the sword absorption technique. It was very fitting. In the medicine refining room, a group of level 1, 2, and 3 alchemists were refining medicine essence. All of them were sweating profusely. Didn't I come back alive? Lin Muyu smiled brightly. Congratulations, Sister Chu Yao. You've been promoted to an attendant of the spiritual medicine department. Yes, yes. Lin Muyu smiled and said, this is a kind of suction force produced by a spiral of energy. If your cultivation rises to this level in the future, I believe you will be able to comprehend it. All right, Xiling, rest early. It's getting late. Chu Yao pouted and said, didn't you also become an attendant of the temple? When Lin Muyu came within 3 meters of her, Chu Yao, who was concentrating on refining medicine essence, finally discovered his presence. When she turned around and saw Lin Muyu's handsome figure, Chu Yao couldn't help but be stunned. Her pair of beautiful eyes were covered with a layer of mist. In the blink of an eye she was about to cry. She opened her arms and rushed forward to hug Lin Muyu. Saying this, Chu Yao raised her hand and pulled out the pear blossom sword from her waist. Her beautiful eyes revealed a serious expression. She suddenly opened her hands and the pear blossom sword floated in the air. True Qi transformed into flames that enshrouded her palms. She guided the long sword and in the blink of an eye, a spiral of energy was produced, causing the pear blossom sword to rapidly spin horizontally. No, how could that be? Lin Muyu patted her back and said with a smile, Sister Chu Yao, you are one of the spiritual medicine division's attendants. You can't do this, they will laugh at us. Of course not. Everyone in the capital knows that you are the champion of the sword dueling conference. Don't be so humble. Oh, did Brother Chu Huayin say that? That's because he is too humble. Chu Yao opened her hands and energy instantly exploded out. The pear blossom sword spun at high speed towards Lin Muyu. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. Actually, although the spiral is very strong, as long as Sister Chu Yao uses your true Qi to guide it in the opposite direction, you can still stabilize the pear blossom sword. Then, all right. Qin Xiling muttered to himself and said, I feel that Attendant Lin's blade has an extremely vast and invisible suction force. It makes it impossible for me to hold my own sword. It's really strange. Lin Muyu pulled out the pear blossom sword from the ground and handed it to Chu Yao. She said with a smile, it seems that you must have destroyed a lot of things while practicing the spiral. In the distance, Chu Yao's graceful figure was in a corner of the refinement room. She was opening her hands and her fingers were like butterflies flying as she refined the medicinal essence of a grade 7 medicinal herb. As expected, that God of Medicine canon was indeed a wondrous book. It actually allowed Chu Yao to rapidly grow into a genuine medicine saint in such a short period of time. What Chu Feng's grandfather couldn't do had now been accomplished by Chu Yao. Chu Yao slowly left his embrace. Her beautiful eyes were filled with tears as she said, Did you know? When you went to Twilight Rain City, I dreamed of you for several consecutive nights. All of them were nightmares. I dreamt of you being torn apart by powerful enemies. I was so worried. Oh, which one of your superiors is in love with you? Early in the morning the sun was shining brightly. Lin Muyu, dressed in her temple armor, smoothly entered the Spirit Medicine Division. Along the way, the people of the Spirit Medicine Division looked at her with reverent gazes. The status of a temple attendant was much more honorable than that of a Spirit Medicine Division's attendant. Although the Empire attached great importance to the Spirit Medicine Division, it was clearly not as important as the temple. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh heartily. She walked up and patted Qin Xiling's shoulder, asking, Xiling, how did it feel when your sword was snatched away? Clang. Chu Yao's face alternated between red and white. She glared at him and said, Luo Bin, don't speak nonsense. You and I are like siblings. It's not the kind of relationship you think. Qin Xiling leapt forward and stepped on the stone wall with 2 pa-pa sounds. He pulled out the sword nailed into the wall and said, Careful Attendant Lin, I'm coming again. What, you don't look happy. Do you want to try again? With a glance, the golden badge on Chu Yao's neck made Lin Muyu's eyes light up. It was also a golden leaf, but it was slightly longer. So the Temple and Spirit Medicine Division's attendant badges had the same effect. Chu Yao laughed, Because I don't like you. I was just saying, why are you so serious? Walking side by side with Qin Ziling along the corridors of the Holy Temple, Lin Muyu was thinking in her heart that her technique of generating the suction force of the 3 spirals of Qijin was still incomparable to the suction force of that mysterious assassin. She still needed to practice it well and upgrade it to be able to achieve an unexpected result when fighting with experts of the same level as her. On the second day there was no need for lessons. Since the attendant on duty was Guiyang, Lin Muyu had some free time. It was time to visit Chu Yao in the spirit medicine division. Around the corner she saw another group of people. 7 or 8 alchemists were surrounding one person. That person looked very familiar. It was Luo Bin, who had been injured by Lin Muyu. He was one of the attendants in the spirit medicine division and was also the son of Minister Luo Xing. He was a popular figure in Lanyan City. Unfortunately, after Lin Muyu became one of the 4 heroes of Lanyan, Luo Bin paled in comparison. Then let's go. Chu Yao walked forward and held Lin Muyu's arm. She said with a smile, Yu's cultivation is getting more and more profound. No wonder brother said that Yu's cultivation is already above his. Therefore, in the courtyard where Chu Yao lived, Lin Muyu once again gave her some pointers on martial arts cultivation. Chu Yao was talented to begin with. Now, with the guidance of 2 masters, Lin Muyu and Chu Huaying, her cultivation was naturally twice the result with half the effort. Lin Muyu's body spun, her dou qi enshrouding the edge of her sword. 3 invisible spiraling forces once again appeared on the long sword, parrying Qin Ziling's iron sword in the air. Taking advantage of the momentum, she once again forcefully snatched away the iron sword with a mighty suction force. And good. As the general of the south, Lin Muyu had been in the court for a long time. She naturally knew that petty people should not be offended. It was best not to provoke Minister Luo Xing. She cupped her hands and smiled, Attendant Luo Bin, I'm going out to eat with my sister. Do you want to go with us? Ah. In addition, Lin Muyu could clearly feel that Chu Yao's cultivation strength had greatly increased. She was at least at the 3rd level of the earth realm now and her qi was very pure. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to refine level 7 herbs so easily. It was as if she was dancing among the herbs. Even the great medicine masters in the distance kept looking over and secretly watching the beautiful medicine saint concoct medicine. You, I thought you disappeared. Chu Yao raised her head and smiled sweetly. How is it? How's sister's practice of using fire to control the sword? The flame spiraling force formed a small storm, sweeping up the surrounding flowers and plants. Many flowers were quickly torn to shreds, and the leaves flew around the pear blossom sword. Chu Yao's beautiful face paled. She hurriedly said, You hurry and dodge. Don't let this attack hurt you. Chapter 249. Lin Muyu was a practical person. Since they were out for a meal they had to eat meat. So she invited Chu Yao to eat a table full of meat. They were rich now anyway, so mutton, beef, pork knuckles and more were all laid out on the table. Chu Yao was a diligent and thrifty girl, so she couldn't bear to waste these things. So she urged Lin Muyu to eat. The 2 of them forcefully finished the table's worth of meat and barely made it out of the shop with the help of the wall. They looked like they were about to die. When they returned to the spirit medicine division, the 2 of them sat in the hallway outside the greenhouse for a while. The Dragon Seeker Forest was a harsh winter, but Swallow Orchid City felt like it was already spring. The breeze blew through Chu Yao's hair. She combed her bangs and leaned lightly against a wooden pillar. She looked deeply at Lin Muyu and asked with a smile, did something happen on the way to Twilight Rain City with Her Highness Qinin? Lin Muyu was startled. No, nothing happened other than being chased. Chu Yao pursed her red lips and said, Big brother just asked me a few days ago. Asked me if I liked you, asked me if I never thought of marrying at all. Lin Muyu's heart was filled with a myriad of emotions, and she was actually at a loss for words. Chu Yao smiled. Grandfather spent his entire life studying alchemy, but in the end he was only a grandmaster alchemist. I, on the other hand, am already a saint alchemist. And then? Lin Muyu asked. Chu Yao looked deeply at him and said, You and I fled from Kathaya City to Lanyan City. We experienced so much on the way and I thought that I was deeply in love with you. But after thinking about it for a long time, I realized that perhaps we really are like siblings. Love is too much of a luxury for me and I should focus on refining pills. But you, if you truly love Her Highness Qinin, then you should treat her seriously. Lin Muyu lightly leaned against the railing and dejectedly said, Love is too extravagant for all of us. If elder sister only wants to focus on refining medicine, then I should only want to focus on cultivation. I'll wait until I'm strong enough and have self-respect before talking about love. Chu Yao giggled. Silly boy, you're so easy to fool. Lin Muyu was at a loss. Sister Chu Yao, what are you playing at? I'm not playing. Chu Yao pursed her lips into a smile. It's just that after saying these words, you'll never know whether or not I love you. Lin Muyu looked at her with clear eyes. In any case, I'll always protect Sister Chu Yao and not let you come to harm. I'll do my best to protect the people I care about. This is my principle in this world. Then you have to work hard. After all, there are so many people you care about. Chu Yao said with a sour smile. Lin Muyu stood up and said speechlessly, all right, I should return to the temple. I'll come see you again next time. I'll see you off. All right. Chu Yao walked him all the way to the entrance of the spirit medicine department before turning around and going back. Lin Muyu walked straight to the entrance of the temple when he suddenly heard the sound of hooves behind him. It was a beautiful girl wearing the golden emblem of the Imperial Merchant Company. She dismounted and said with a smile, Lady Lin Muyu, please wait a moment. Lin Muyu turned around and looked at the girl. She looked a little familiar, but she was not sure who she was. She asked, Miss, do we know each other? Lady Lin Muyu doesn't remember me anymore? The girl smiled and tilted her head to look at Lin Muyu. Have you forgotten me from the last auction? I'm the host of the auction. Panzyridium, do you remember me? Panzyridium? Lin Muyu was slightly stunned. She cupped her fists and said respectfully, oh, it's Panzyridium, the daughter of Pan Dingtian, the leader of the Imperial Merchant Company. My apologies for not recognizing you. You're too polite. Panzyridium walked forward and took out a golden invitation card. She smiled and said, I'm here for this. Tomorrow morning, the Imperial Merchant Company's auction house will be selling a batch of baby beasts and some pet eggs. Most of these baby beasts are hunted from the jungles of Lingnan. If they're tamed, they can become good pets. If Lady Lin Muyu is interested, please come. We'll invite all the diamond card customers. Lin Muyu took the invitation card and nodded with a smile. All right, I'll go. Thank you for making this trip personally, Lady Panzyridium. You're welcome. I'll head back now. The Imperial Merchant Company welcomes you tomorrow, lady. Okay. Lin Muyu put the invitation card into her Chenkuan bag. She was full of ambition. She did not manage to obtain a satisfactory pet with her animal taming skill in the dragon-seeking forest. Would this Imperial Merchant Company's auction be an opportunity? However, those baby beast souls should be relatively weak. She probably could not tame them with her powerful soul. Thinking of this, she could not help but sigh. Forget it. She would go and take a look tomorrow. Actually, there were quite a number of people in Lanyan City who had pets. But most of them were baby beasts that were only a few decades old. They were not strong in battle and were treated like dogs. People like the pale crane who could tame a 10,000-year-old dragon snake were more ferocious. However, he still died in the hands of Chu Chu in the end. The next day he woke up early in the morning. Today he was on duty as a deacon. But after announcing the matches of the trial, he left the temple. Compared to him, the baby beasts were more important. By the time Lin Muyu arrived at the Chamber of Commerce in the Imperial City, there was already a sea of people there. Countless young masters dressed in luxurious clothing had gathered together. To them, the existence of the cubs was like crickets, a form of entertainment. Of course, it was very different for Lin Muyu. The cubs were his companions, they must be able to fight side by side with him. He did not need a pet. Big brother Yu. In the crowd, Jin Xiaoteng had already recognized Lin Muyu. She immediately walked over and pulled his hand. She smiled and said, I've already booked a good seat for you. Come with me. Oh. Jin Xiaoteng pulled him into the crowd and finally sat down in the first row. It was indeed a VIP seat. They could see everything clearly. Jin Xiaoteng did not seem to have anything important to do. She sat beside Lin Muyu and said with a smile, Big brother Yu, do you want a pet? I'll take a look first. Oh. Then after the auction, is it convenient for you to refine another 100 bottles of Dream of the Extreme? I knew it. Lin Muyu said in a bad mood, let's go with the old rules. You can provide the materials for free and I'll be in charge of refining them. Good, it's a deal. Jin Xiaoteng smiled happily. Perhaps in her eyes, Lin Muyu was no different from a god of wealth. Soon the auction began. Panzyridium, dressed in a purple robe, walked onto the stage and said with a smile, Welcome to the Imperial Chamber of Commerce's auction. Next up is the auction of the cubs. First, the first cub, a 3-month-old silver-furred wolf. She carefully took a wolf cub from a servant's hands and gently stroked its head, saying, Fast wolves are nimble and can help their master hunt after they mature. They can also guard the house. Moreover, this wolf's mother is a 3,200-year-old silver-furred wolf. so it will definitely grow up to be quite strong. Customers who want it can start bidding now. The starting price is 500 Jianghu coins. Everyone on the stage started bidding, but Lin Muyu was not interested at all. Even the snow leopard could not withstand her soul, so buying this wolf cub would only be sending it to its death. In the end, the silver-furred wolf was sold for 1,200 Jianghu coins. The young masters of the imperial city were indeed rich. After that, another dozen or so spirit beasts were auctioned off. Most of them were beast cubs that were less than 3 years old, ranging from wolves to dragon snakes. Lin Muyu couldn't help but sigh. The people of the imperial city even dared to raise the cubs of fierce beasts like dragons and snakes. They really didn't care about their lives. It was a pity that these people didn't know how to tame beasts. At most they could raise these spirit beasts like raising dogs, but they couldn't bring out the true power of the spirit beasts. In the blink of an eye, 2 hours had passed and the spirit beast cubs were all sold out. Panxyridium swayed her hips as she walked onto the stage and continued to smile. Next, this little girl will introduce the eggs of our Ling Nan spirit beasts. Here the first one is an earth lizard egg. She pointed at a giant egg on the stage and said, "The egg is a pinkish white, which means it's about to hatch. As long as the temperature is high enough, a fierce and cute earth lizard will hatch. Customers who want it, please start bidding. The starting price is 200 Jianghu coins." It was obvious that eggs were not as expensive as beast cubs. Lin Muyu continued to wait patiently as she used the spirit pulse technique to feel the strength of the spirit beasts inside the eggs. However, she found that each one was weaker than the last and couldn't be used at all. After selling a dozen or so spirit beast eggs, Panxyridium finally smiled and said, "Now it's time for our finale. Men, bring out the sacred object." A brawny man walked up with a black spirit beast egg that was about half a meter in diameter in his arms. He placed the egg on the table and announced with a smile, "This is a spirit beast egg that we found in the volcanic mountain range of Lingkong province in the southern ridge. It's not cooked even after being roasted at high temperature. There are dragon patterns on the shell, so our appraiser has concluded that this is a spirit beast egg of the dragon family. At the very least, it's an infant of the umbrella dragon level, and it has a high chance of hatching it. This is a once-in-a-blue-moon opportunity. Customers who want it, please bid. The starting price is 10,000 Jianghu coins." The crowd immediately burst into an uproar. A man dressed in luxurious clothes immediately said with a smile, "Miss Panxyridium, even a burnt egg like this costs 10,000 Jianghu coins. Does the Imperial Capital Chamber of Commerce have nothing better to offer?" Panxyridium blushed but did not respond. However, Lin Muyu frowned. Under the spirit pulse technique, she could actually sense an extremely strong soul fluctuation coming from the eggshell. The strength of the soul was extremely strong. The voice of the 7 luminaries demon emperor came from Ehai. "Lin Ruoji, this is a Spinosaurus that's about to hatch. Buy it. With your psychic ability, you'll definitely be able to hatch it." "Is that so?" Lin Muyu did not care about being called Lin Ruoji anymore. She raised her hand and calmly said, 20,000 Jianghu coins. Chapter 250. Who's that? Is he stupid because he's too rich? Yeah, how dare he buy such a charred lump of metal? Is he crazy? He must be dreaming that he can hatch a divine dragon. Haha, idiot. Amidst the booing, Lin Muyu reiterated, 20,000 Jianghu coins. I want this egg. No one else bid. Panxyridium blinked and said with a smile, "Congratulations, Master Lin Muyu, this dragon spiritual beast egg belongs to you now. I hope you hatch your baby dragon soon so that everyone in Lanyan City will be amazed." "Thank you." Lin Muyu stood up and went backstage to complete the transaction. Although Jin Xiaotang was confused, she still followed behind Lin Muyu. She couldn't help but ask, "Brother Ayu, logically speaking, a bloodthirsty tiger or a dragon snake cub would be far more useful than this dragon egg. Dragons have been extinct on the continent for many years, and the only ones that are still alive are some pseudo-dragons such as umbrella dragons and earth dragons. It's also very difficult for them to hatch and survive. I'm afraid your 20,000 Jianghu coins is already a loss." Lin Muyu could not help but laugh. "Don't worry, I won't make a loss." The two of them went backstage. Panxyridium was already waiting. After handing over 20 diamond coins to Lin Muyu, he handed the heavy dragon egg to Lin Muyu. No one knew how long this black dragon egg had been burned by the volcano. It was completely black. Jin Xiaotang could not help but worry. She smiled and said, "This dragon egg, could it be cooked?" Lin Muyu also smiled. "No. If it's a real dragon, it's not afraid of fire. If it's not a real dragon, I can only treat it as a midnight snack. Jin Xiaotang burst into laughter. 20,000 Jinin coins for a midnight snack. Big brother you is indeed different. Let's go and get the raw materials for Dream of the Zenith. Yes. Just as the two of them came outside, two people came towards them. One was Yuan Lian, who was carrying a bloodthirsty tiger cub, and the other was Ling Feng, who was carrying an umbrella dragon cub. Both of them looked at the dragon egg in Lin Muyu's arms. Oh, Lin Muyu has a good eye. She actually chose this dragon egg that has been roasted for many years out of so many spiritual beasts. Ah, how interesting. Don't let a pheasant hatch out. Yuan Lian laughed heartily as he spoke. Lin Muyu raised her eyebrows and said, even if it hatches a pheasant, it can still kill that bloodthirsty tiger of yours. Bullshit. Yuan Lian sneered, you think you can kill the bloodthirsty tiger with that egg? Lin Muyu, do you have the guts to bet with me? Oh, what bet? 1 month from now, use the thing hatched from your egg to fight my bloodthirsty tiger. The wager is 10,000 Jinin coins. What do you think? That's too little. How about 50,000 Jinin coins? Alright, I'll bet with you. Miss Xiaotang will be the witness. Yuan Lian laughed confidently. Jin Xiaotang nodded. Alright, 1 month from now, Xiaotang will wait for the two of you to have a pet fight at this place. Alright. Yuan Lian looked at Lin Muyu with a trace of jealousy. He smiled and said, Godson, you're going to lose for sure this time. Prepare 50,000 Jinin coins. Hee, if you really don't have any money, go ask your godfather for more. However, Lin Muyu laughed heartily. There was undisguised disdain in her eyes as she turned around and followed Jin Xiaotang to the medicine store. She never looked back at Yuan Lian again. Yuan Lian's face was ashen. He lowered his voice and said, Bullshit, godson of the emperor. He's just a dog raised by the emperor. How dare he be so arrogant? Tui. Ling Feng was dumbfounded. Brother Yuan, you've been the one scolding him all this time. Lin Muyu hasn't even replied to you, but you actually said that he's arrogant. I admire you for noticing that. You have good eyes. By the time they returned to the holy temple, it was already close to dusk. They asked the servants to send dinner to their rooms. Then they nervously placed the black lump on the table. Their fingers tapped on it a few times, but there was no response. They couldn't help but worry that their money had been wasted. They took out a clean towel and carefully wrapped the dragon egg. Then they placed it by the fireplace and relied on the warmth of the fireplace to keep it warm. At this moment, the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor and Yi suddenly laughed loudly. Idiot, do you think you can hatch the dragon egg like this? What else do you want? Lin Muyu asked in return. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor said, Dragons are spiritual creatures condensed from the essence of heaven and earth. They are said to be the closest existence to God. Every true dragon can withstand the heat of fire. How can you hatch the dragon egg with that little heat? Lin Muyu's heart skipped a beat. You're saying, the dragon in this dragon egg is a true dragon? Haha, idiot Lin Ruoji, can't you feel the power of the true dragon? That's right, you're just a mortal, unlike me who has a godhood. Heh, it's normal that you can't feel the dragon's aura. Don't call me Lin Ruoji. Lin Muyu roared in her heart. She moved the dragon egg closer to the fireplace. It was getting hot. That's more like it. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor said, in another 2 or 3 days, it should hatch a young dragon. However, young dragons have a good appetite. Have you prepared food? Prepared what? Chicken, but it can't be a weak chicken. That will affect the development of the young dragon. Ah, F***ck. Lin Muyu cursed in her heart. She gave the servant some Jinin coins and asked him to buy some wild pheasants the next morning. Wild pheasants were birds that lived in the forest, so they couldn't be considered weak, right? In less than an hour, she had refined 124 bottles of Dream of the Extreme Peaks. That was good. She would give 100 bottles to Jin Xiaotang to auction and give the rest to Luo Yu to distribute to the soldiers with better potential in the Longdan army camp. This would greatly increase the combat power of the Longdan army camp. The stronger the combat power of the Longdan army camp, the stronger Lin Muyu's backing would be. The next day Lin Muyu gave the Dream of the Extreme Peaks to Jin Xiaotang. The rest was sent to the contact person of the Longdan army camp in Lanyan City to deliver to Dragon Rocky Mountain. After settling these matters, Lin Muyu began to cultivate the Dragon Forging Bone Remnant Scroll. While cultivating, she did not forget to communicate with the dragon egg using the spiritual pulse technique. However, the young dragon in the dragon egg did not seem to respond at all. For the whole night, Lin Muyu used the spiritual chapter of the beast taming technique to communicate with the dragon egg. However, it was to no avail. It was not until early in the morning when the wild pheasants in the room began to crow. Suddenly, the spiritual sense in Lin Muyu's mind trembled slightly. It was as if a faint warmth had awakened in the dragon egg. Buzz! Lin Muyu's spiritual sense entered the dragon egg. It was as if she had entered a chaotic space. Not far away, she saw a giant dragon covered in red scales circling in the air with its claws and fangs bared. A pair of merciless eyes stared at her. A dragon that could fly in the air? Could the dragon in this dragon egg really be the legendary true dragon? Roar! The giant dragon roared angrily and suddenly rushed down. It opened its mouth and swallowed Lin Muyu's spiritual sense. The spiritual chapter must not conflict with the spiritual sense of a spirit beast. Do not resist it. Lin Muyu's spiritual sense spread out its arms in the chaotic space and allowed the giant dragon to swallow him. He only felt his body suddenly relax as if he had entered another space. Was he swallowed? No, he was not swallowed. He had entered the giant dragon's spiritual sense. Roar! In the chaotic space, the giant dragon danced wildly in the air. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. It seemed to be in great pain as it howled miserably. Suddenly, there were signs of a volcano eruption in the air. Countless scorching lava and lava dust fell from the sky and swallowed the giant dragon in the next moment. However, that mournful howl still echoed in the air. Was this the fate of this dragon egg? Lin Muyu opened her hands and the golden gourd martial soul came out of her body. Battle energy swirled around and blew away the lava dust. However, the giant dragon's body kept shrinking in the lava and finally became a young dragon about the size of a puppy. Lin Muyu opened her hands and the golden gourd vine lifted it up. The little dragon whimpered and shook its little head helplessly as it walked towards Lin Muyu. It leaned its head on his arm and fell into a deep sleep. This was a state where the soul of a spiritual beast and a human were completely in sync. Lin Muyu could feel the helplessness and fear in the heart of the little dragon. The little dragon could also feel Lin Muyu's desire to protect it. In an instant, it reached the highest state of the psychic art. After an unknown period of time, a light suddenly flashed. Lin Muyu's spiritual sense was pulled out of the little dragon's spiritual sense and the next moment, it was pulled out of the dragon egg and returned to her body. Ah! Lin Muyu let out a long sigh. This was simply too taxing on her soul force. In just a short period of time, it felt like a few centuries had passed. Her soul force was almost completely sucked dry by the little dragon. She needed a good sleep to recover her soul force. Looking at the dragon egg by the fireplace, Lin Muyu could not help but smile warmly. It was as if he could already see a little life growing rapidly in the dragon egg and would soon break out of the shell. There was a feeling of dizziness in her head. She was too tired. She closed her eyes and quickly fell asleep. After a good night's sleep, when Lin Muyu woke up, sunlight shone in through the gap of the curtains. A warm feeling spread around her body. Lin Muyu did not open her eyes, but she quickly realized that this warmth did not seem to be as simple as sunlight. There seemed to be something licking her palm. She hurriedly opened her eyes and saw a young dragon the length of an arm coiled by the side of the bed. It stuck out its red tongue and licked her palm. This young dragon looked like a pangolin. Its whole body was covered with young and tender scales. However, these scales were like crystals. They were in the shape of diamonds and glowed. Behind the young dragon was the eggshell that had been bitten off more than half. In just one day, this young dragon had actually broken out of the shell. Lin Muyu was overjoyed and quickly sat up. When the little dragon saw that its master had woken up, it happily chirped and waved its front claws. It seemed to be extremely happy. It was so cute that it was almost unbearable. Lin Muyu recognized the form of this dragon. It was one of the top mythical beasts in the game, Conquer a Catasaurus. It was a member of the Holy Dragon clan. A level 1 Acatosaurus looked like this. She did not expect that she would really get a mythical beast in the real world. This time she really picked up a treasure. Chapter 251. Woo woo, Xiaolong curled up in Lin Muyu's arms like a puppy, licking its master's palm with its tender tongue. Even its tail, which was wrapped in red crystal scales, was wagging gently to show its inner joy. Lin Muyu had already established a soul contract with Xiaolong, and the strength of Xiaolong's soul was no less than Lin Muyu's, so they seemed to be very harmonious. Lin Muyu got up happily and took out a wild pheasant from the cage. The dragon spirit sword flashed and beheaded the wild pheasant. She plucked its feathers and removed its dirt, preparing to make Xiaolong its first breakfast. Unexpectedly, when she turned around, she saw Xiaolong pouncing on the cage and biting a wild pheasant to death. It had already swallowed the pheasant in big mouthfuls. *CK, Lin Muyu was a little speechless. Wasn't this way of eating too barbaric? However, after thinking about it carefully, it seemed to be very normal. The dragon clan was originally the king of beasts. At the end of the day, they were still a type of ferocious beast. This was how they ate their food. If Lin Muyu purposely made a plate of large plate chicken for the dragon clan, it would probably destroy the dragon clan's nature. At this moment, there was a sudden knock on the door, followed by Lei Hong's voice. Are you awake? Something big has happened. One of the imperial guards, Lord Chu Huayin, is looking for you. Lin Muyu was shocked and hurriedly gestured for Xiaolong to hide. Wu, Xiaolong protested with its mouth wide open as if it was still not full. However, it still hid under the bed with half a chicken in its mouth and ate it heartily under the bed. Opening the door, Lin Muyu said respectfully, Great Deacon, what happened? Why is Brother Chu looking for me so early in the morning? I don't know either. Lei Hong held the Great Deacon's scepter in his hand. Suddenly, his eyes lit up and he smiled. You have a guest here? No. Hey, is that so? Raham narrowed his eyes. Although Grandpa's spiritual sense isn't as sharp as yours, I am still a Saint Realm cultivator. Do you know that there is an extremely strong dragon aura in your room? Seeing that she couldn't hide it anymore, Lin Muyu was speechless. Then Grandpa, come in. When Raham entered the room, Lin Muyu immediately closed the door. With a soft call, the little dragon crawled out, licking its tongue. There were even a few chicken feathers at the corner of its mouth. It looked at Raham with its big round eyes and let out a loud howl. Unfortunately, its voice was immature, and it didn't sound like a dragon's howl. It still sounded like a puppy's. But what kind of person was Raham? He was an experienced and knowledgeable Grand Deacon of the temple. After squinting at the little dragon for a while, Lei Hong's heart was filled with shock. He turned to look at Lin Muyu and asked, Where did this dragon come from? I bought it from the Imperial Merchant Guild for 20,000 Jinine coins. It is said to be a dragon egg dug out from a volcanic area. It should be at least 10,000 years old. I was lucky and actually hatched it. Lin Muyu replied honestly. Raham was ecstatic. This is too shocking. You should know that this Acatosaurus is a member of the ancient sacred dragon clan. Its status is second only to the five-clawed golden true dragon. Everyone thought that Acatosaurus had gone extinct along with the five-clawed golden true dragon. You actually managed to get one. This is too shocking. Lin Muyu was stunned. Grand Deacon, if I bring this dragon out as a shareholder, wouldn't it attract too much attention? That won't happen. Raham stroked his white beard and smiled. The young Acatosaurus is not much different from a fire salamander. It will only display its true dragon aura when it reaches adulthood. If you really want to bring it out, you can lie and say that it is a fire salamander. I believe that no one will be able to tell the difference. However, it is better not to show it off in front of others. It is a pity. What is a pity? The Acatosaurus is a branch of the ancient sacred dragon. It needs 10,000 years to reach adulthood. It is a pity that you can't wait 10,000 years for it to reach adulthood. I am afraid that by the time your 100 years are over, this Acatosaurus will only be a young dragon. Damn. Lin Muyu sighed and said, Grand Deacon, can I still bring this Acatosaurus out? It is best that you do not. I will help you look after it. You should go and see Chu Huayin. He seems to be in a hurry. Something big must have happened. Thank you, Grand Deacon. Lin Muyu's spiritual sense told the little dragon to stay in the room and not go out. It could eat the wild pheasants as it pleased. The little dragon raised its head and roared in response. Lei Hong sat by the bed and caressed the little dragon's head with a smile. He looked like he couldn't bear to part with it. He muttered, Little guy, if you were born a few thousand years earlier, maybe I could rely on you to revive the holy temple. What a pity, what a pity! In the corridor, Lin Muyu was wearing the holy temple's armor and carrying the dragon spirit sword on her back. It seemed that Chu Huayin couldn't wait any longer. He also appeared in the corridor and rushed over. His face was full of seriousness as he said, Something big has happened. What's wrong, Brother Chu? Lin Muyu's heart trembled. She said, Did something happen to Sister Chu Yao? No, Yao is fine. Something happened to Su Qin. Wasn't General Su Qin escorted back to Muyu City by Brother Feng and the Imperial Guards? How could something happen? What the hell happened? He He was assassinated. Chu Huayan's expression darkened. He said, "It happened late last night. The Empire's great general Su Qin is dead." Lin Muyu was shocked. How? How is this possible? Who could kill Su Qin in the midst of thousands of soldiers? Chu Huaimian said, "When Feng Jixing and his 5,000 imperial cavalrymen were halfway to the ancient path in the clouds, the 10,000 Steel Blade army arrived to receive Su Qin. Therefore Duke Yun ordered Feng Jixing to lead the army back to Lanyan City. However, the next day, when General Su Qin and his 500 imperial cavalrymen entered the dragon-seeking forest to hunt, they were ambushed by a group of people from the House of Chivalry. They sent out more than 2,000 rangers, and among them, there was no lack of outstanding cultivators. When Duke Yun arrived with his troops, General Su Qin and his 500 imperial cavalrymen had already... Impossible. Impossible? Lin Muyu shook her head and said, "I've seen the power of the Steel Blade army. There's no way that 2,000 rangers could kill 500 cavalry guards. This is absolutely impossible. That's the problem." Chu Huayin lowered his voice and said, "His Majesty and Her Highness Qin Yin both suspect that this wasn't done by the chivalrous house. Instead, someone used the chivalrous house's name to kill Su Qin." "Xiangyu?" Lin Muyu's eyes widened. Chu Huayin didn't reply. He said lightly, "Let's go. Follow me to the palace. His Majesty is summoning you." A servant from the temple had already brought Lin Muyu's warhorse over. He said respectfully, "Deacon, here's your horse." Lin Muyu nodded and said, "Thank you." She leapt onto her horse and charged towards the Zetian Palace with Chu Huaying in tow. Things had really gotten out of hand this time. Lin Muyu had initially thought that she would be able to save Su Qin's life during the battle at the post house. However, she had never expected that she would still be one step behind. Su Qin had actually been killed even under the protection of 500 cavalrymen. The atmosphere in Zetian Palace was cold and quiet. The two of them galloped to the outside of the palace before dismounting. A eunuch announced loudly, "General of the South, Lin Muyu, and Deputy General Chu Huayin request an audience." Inside the palace, Qin Jin was sitting on the throne. Qin Yin, who was dressed in a princess cloak, stood beside her father. Chu Chu, Feng Jixing, and Qin Yan were also present. They were basically all Qin Jin's trusted aides in Zetian Palace. Even all the courtiers had been dismissed. This showed how secretive this audience was. Lin Muyu and Chu Huayin walked side by side to the emperor. She cupped her fists and greeted, "Father?" Qin Jin nodded and asked, "Ayu, 3 days ago, a fierce battle took place in the Lanyan city's post house late at night. One person tried to assassinate Su Qin, and the other person saved Su Qin. The one who saved Su Qin was you." Lin Muyu was stunned. Qin Jin said in a low voice, "You answer truthfully." Lin Muyu had no choice but to nod. "Was me." Qin Jin was stunned. He continued to ask, "Then who was the one who assassinated Su Qin?" "The commander of the military police battalion, Xiangyu." "Are you sure?" "Yes." Lin Muyu said calmly, "I've fought Xiangyu before. That night, the assassin's martial soul was the treading fire tiger, and the techniques he used were the fire cloud fist and the chaotic 9 strikes. There's no doubt that it was Xiangyu. Other than Xiangyu, there's probably no one in the younger generation of Lanyan City who can easily defeat me." Since that's the case, Qin Jin's eyes were filled with killing intent. Xiangyu is audacious. He can be so insolent just because he is the descendant of the war god Xiang Wentian. He is truly despicable. "Feng Jixing, what do you think we should do?" Feng Jixing cupped his fists and said, "Your Majesty, although you is sure that this person is Xiangyu, there is no other evidence. If Xiangyu refutes this as a one-sided statement from you, what should we do? Moreover, the assassination of General Su Qin in the dragon-seeking forest has yet to be concluded. Those people from the House of Chivalry have already disappeared without a trace in the dragon-seeking forest. If we hold Xiangyu accountable now, it will be unjustifiable." Qin Jin suddenly slammed his dragon throne and said angrily, "Are we powerless to stop Xiangyu from killing my general?" Feng Jixing hurriedly knelt on one knee and said, "That's not what I meant." "Get up. It's fine now." Qin Jin rubbed the space between his brows. He seemed to have aged a few more years and said, "Su Qin is Xiao Yin's uncle and Empress Su Yun's elder brother. Su Qin's murder has shaken the world. We have no choice but to take action. Chu Chu, you are the princess's grand tutor. What do you think we should do about this?" Chu Chu cupped his fists at the side and said, "Investigate all of Xiangyu's movements these 3 days in detail. Also, send someone to console Duke Yun. Duke Yun has lost his son in his old age. This is a great pain in the world. Qin Jin nodded and said, Feng Jixing, we grant you special privileges and bestow upon you the monarch's golden order. You have full authority to investigate Jianghu. Qin Yin, bring generous gifts and our imperial edict to Muyu City. Console Duke Yun and confer Su Qin the posthumous title of Jingyuan Marquis. Yunzhong province's taxes will also be pardoned for a year. Feng Jixing and Qin Yin cupped their fists at the same time and said, Yes, your majesty. Lin Muyu was startled. She asked, Royal father, what about me? Qin Jin looked at him and said, General Su Qin was assassinated. Originally, your little sister Xiao Yin and I should have gone to attend the funeral. However, Royal father is already old and his health is not good. He can't stand the rush along the way. Feng Jixing and Qin Yin already have their own missions, so Xiao Yin can't go attend the funeral. It's too unsafe. You accompany Xiao Yin well these few days. Whatever she wants to do, just allow her. We are tired. All of you can withdraw. Yes. He didn't want to wait until he was old and Acatosaurus was still a young dragon, useless except for acting cute. After returning to the Holy Palace, he reported the situation to Reihong. Then he wrapped the little dragon's body in a black cloth and tied it to the horse's back. He ordered it not to move. Fortunately, although Acatosaurus was mischievous, it was very obedient. It laid in the cloth bag and soon, it started snoring softly. It had actually fallen asleep. When he returned to the Holy Palace, Tang Xiaoxi had already arrived. After having a quick meal, they set off for the royal hunting ground. The royal hunting ground was located in the dragon-seeking forest. Most of the spiritual beasts in the hunting ground did not exceed 3,000 years of lifespan. The hunting ground was surrounded by soldiers armed with bows and arrows. As long as the spiritual beasts in the hunting ground tried to escape, these soldiers would use torches and bows to threaten them. When there were so many people, even the strongest spiritual beasts would be frightened and retreat, let alone a spiritual beast that was only a few thousand years old. More than 2,000 people left the city in a grandiose manner. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were both sitting in the carriage. Lin Muyu held onto the hilt of her sword and rode her horse to guard one side. Chu Huayin guarded the other side. Wei Chou, Xiahou Sang and the others followed closely behind them. In particular, the group of archers that Wei Chou brought with him were all filled with arrows. The arrowheads glowed with a white luster, which was the special characteristic of the white diamond arrows. The reason why Lin Muyu dared to escort Qin Yin with such a small number of troops was mainly because of the white diamond arrows. The sharpness of the white diamond arrows, Wei Chou's unfailing accuracy, and Lin Muyu and Chu Huayin's strength were enough to kill them even if Zheng Yifan personally led the Divine Might Battalion to fight them. The white diamond arrows could pierce through battle armor, and they were destined to be the nemesis of Saint Realm experts. They arrived at the Imperial hunting ground at dusk. The journey was very smooth and they didn't make any mistakes. That night, they arranged for Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi to stay in the hunting ground's temporary imperial residence. In fact, it was called a temporary imperial residence, but it was just a small castle. The 2,000 imperial guards set up camp around the temporary imperial residence. There were originally 300 soldiers guarding the temporary imperial residence, but now there were nearly 2,400 soldiers guarding the place. It was much safer. When Lin Muyu escorted Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi into the temporary imperial residence, the supervisor of the temporary imperial residence came forward and knelt on the ground. This lowly official, Zhou Tong, pays his respects to Your Highness Yin and General Lin and General Chu. Qin Yin waved her hand. There's no need to be so polite. Rise. Zhou Tong hurriedly stood up and smiled. I'm glad to hear that Your Highness has arrived at the hunting ground. This lowly official has already ordered the servants to prepare a delicious and exquisite dinner. Your Highness can eat after a short rest. Qin Yin probably didn't have much of an appetite either. She tugged on Tang Xiaoxi's hand and said, Lord Zhou Tong, just arrange a room for me and Xiaoxi tonight. I will sleep with Xiaoxi. Yes, Your Highness. Chu Huaying, Wei Chou, and the others stood guard in the corridor. Lin Muyu carried a black bag on her back, which contained the sleeping little dragon. She followed Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi to the room, and arranged for the imperial guards along the way to ensure their safety. Qin Yin had a lot on her mind and didn't say much until they entered the room. Her pet, the golden crag swift wolf, kept staring at the bag on Lin Muyu's back and growled softly. However, every time the little dragon in the bag moved and stretched, the golden crag swift wolf would immediately whimper and retreat a few steps. It looked both angry and scared, and it was simply too cowardly. "Little wolf, what's wrong?" Qin was a little confused. She furrowed her brows and said, "Brother Yu, is there something in the bag on your back? Why does my little wolf look so scared? What is it?" Tang Xiaoxi sat on the soft bed and smiled. "Yes, Mo. Why are you acting so mysterious?" Lin Muyu pursed her lips and stood on the edge of the wall with her arms crossed. She smiled and said, 2 days ago, I went to the Imperial Chamber of Commerce to participate in their auction for baby spiritual beasts. That's why I bought a dragon egg." "Baby spiritual beast auction?" Tang Xiaoxi pouted and said with a smile, "That's just a trick. There are so many nobles in Lanyan City who keep spiritual beasts, but in the end the spiritual beasts either get lost, or they turn on their owners and are taken away by the inspection officers as supper. Mu, you're such a smart person. Why would you buy such a deceptive thing?" Lin Muyu spread out her hands and said with a smile, "But I really bought it, and the dragon egg hatched this morning." "Ah, really?" Tang Xiaoxi was shocked. Qin also opened her small mouth, and a glimmer of light appeared in her pair of beautiful eyes. "Brother Yu, you're not lying to me and Xiaoxi, are you?" "When have I ever lied to you?" Lin Muyu smiled and said, "Little dragon, come out and meet the two big sisters." "Awoo!" The Acatosaurus's distinctive cry came from the cloth bag. It struggled hard but still couldn't find the exit of the bag. All it could do was howl. Tang Xiaoxi chuckled. "What on earth is it?" Lin Muyu shook the bag and immediately a pet wrapped in red crystals fell on the carpet. The Acatosaurus howled and immediately turned around to hug Lin Muyu's leg with its claws. It seemed to be very scared, and its tail wrapped in red crystal scales was still sweeping on the carpet, looking scared and naughty. Qin couldn't help laughing. "Wow, what a cute puppy. It's a holy dragon, not a puppy." Lin Muyu reached out to grab the Acatosaurus's tail, lifted it up and came to Qin and Tang Xiaoxi. She said with a smile, "Here, meet the two beauties of our Lanyan city. Don't be so shy." Who would have thought that the little dragon would suddenly burp and let out a satisfied sound? At the same time, it opened its mouth and spat out a small ball of flame with a hua sound. Its big eyes blinked as it looked at Qin and Tang Xiaoxi. Its little claws were waving wildly as if it wanted a hug. It was in girls' nature to like cute things. In an instant, Qin and Tang Xiaoxi's hearts seemed to melt. They took the Acatosaurus from Lin Muyu's hands and put it on Qin's lap. Qin also looked up and said reproachfully, "Brother Yu, if this is really the legendary holy dragon Acatosaurus, how can you raise it like a dog?" Lin Muyu laughed. "It's almost like a puppy." At this time, the Acatosaurus had already opened its front claws and hugged Qin's wrist. At the same time, it stuck out its tender tongue and licked Tang Xiaoxi's index finger. Its big eyes were wide open, looking at one beauty and then the other beauty, as if it was bursting with joy. "So cute," Qin said with a smile. "Brother Yu, let me play with it for a few days, okay?" "Sure." Lin Muyu crossed her arms in front of her chest and said with a smile, "I will accompany you and Xiaoxi for the next few days. You can play with it however you want, just don't break it." "Alright, Xiaoyin, let Xiaoxi learn the art of psychic communication. In the future, when the opportunity arises, Xiaoxi will also be able to obtain a powerful spirit beast." Yes, I've already taught her." "That's good. Regarding this Acatosaurus, you must keep it a secret. If others find out, it might bring about a lot of trouble." "Got it. Alright, let's rest for a while and then we'll go eat." "Okay." Tang Xiaoxi said with a smile, "Have a good rest tonight. Tomorrow morning we'll bring this little dragon to go hunting." "Alright, it hasn't given it a name yet, right? Do you want me and Xiaoyin to give it a nice name?" "Okay, as long as you guys are happy." Lin Muyu didn't mind. Anyway, the main task this time was to accompany Qin out to relax. If the little dragon could make Qin happy, it didn't matter if it was named Wu Mengda. Chapter 253. The dinner was very sumptuous. The officials of the Summer Palace bought some game from the hunters in the surrounding villages. Firebird meat, thunderwolf meat, earth bear paw, thornbird, golden-scaled fish and so on were all available. The officials of the Summer Palace worked hard to please the future monarch. However, Qin's appetite was not very good. On the other hand, Lin Muyu, Chu Huaying, Wei Chou and the others ate a lot and drank a little wine. After all, everyone had a heavy responsibility. Tang Xiaoxi ordered the servants to bring some unfinished food to the room. Her purpose was naturally to feed the little dragon. Lin Muyu sat at the side and watched the two beauties of Lanyan City make the little dragon happy. She was very relaxed. The little dragon howled, kicked over the bowls and chopsticks, and threw itself on the ground to devour the bear paw, golden-scaled fish and other delicious food. Although this little guy was small, his appetite was really good. He had eaten at least 3 to 5 times his size for the whole day. This couldn't help but make Lin Muyu a little worried. She had seen the size of an adult Acatosaurus. It was about the size of a giant elephant. If it still maintained such an appetite, she was afraid that sooner or later, she would become poor because of this little guy. Big brother you. Qinin walked over and knelt on the ground. She put her arm on Lin Muyu's leg and said in a coquettish tone, "Let the little dragon sleep in our room tonight, okay?" This. Lin Muyu said, "Are you sure that this little guy won't be discovered?" "Well, we won't let anyone in tonight." "That's good. I'll sleep next door. Just call me if you need anything." "Okay, tomorrow morning Xiaoxi and I will help the little guy think of a name." "Okay." Lin Muyu looked around. The golden rock swift wolf was curled up in the corner and whining. It was so cowardly. No wonder it fell out of favor. On the other hand, the Acatosaurus didn't seem to be afraid of people at all. It crawled on Tang Xiaoxi's legs and rubbed against Qin Yin's slender legs. Even Lin Muyu was a little jealous. The golden rock swift wolf was naturally even more jealous. However, every time it tried to get close to Qin Yin, the little dragon would quickly turn around and howl at it. The golden rock swift wolf immediately shrank back and trembled on the ground. The next morning I woke up early. When I arrived at Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi's room, the two beauties were already dressed. Qin Yin had changed into a luxurious leather armor that accentuated her curvaceous figure. She wore a deep blue princess cloak that was tied in front of her chest with a golden purple flower clasp. Tang Xiaoxi had changed into a snow-white robe that made her look even more beautiful. Today was the day of the hunt, and the two beauties were indeed very attractive. The little dragon was still sleeping soundly on the carpet beside the bed. Lin Muyu coughed and immediately stood up. It looked at Lin Muyu with wide eyes as if waiting for orders. "Have you thought of a name?" Lin Muyu asked with a smile. "Yes, I have." Qin Yin nodded seriously and said, "The little guy's scarlet scales are sparkling and translucent. It looks like an apple in the dragon-seeking forest in autumn, so Xiaoxi and I agreed that we should name it Little Apple. Don't you think this name is very appropriate?" Lin Muyu shuddered all over. Little Apple. Suddenly, the scene of many aunties dancing in the square appeared in his mind. It was so different from the scene in front of him. Moreover, once the little dragon grew up, it was full of majesty, the holy dragon Acatosaurus. That kind of arrogance, and the name, Little Apple. Wouldn't it laugh in battle? "What's wrong, are you not satisfied?" Qin Yin stepped forward to take his hand and said, "If you are not satisfied, Xiaoxi and I will continue to think of a better name." Lin Muyu hurriedly shook her head. "No, I am very satisfied. This name is simply tailor-made for it. I don't need to say anything else. Xiaoyin and Xiaoxi are really smart. Such a unique and reasonable name was actually thought of by you too. I'm very impressed." Qin Yin glanced at him and chuckled. "Brother Yu is really a big idiot. He doesn't even know how to compliment others. But Xiaoxi and I really think this name is good." "Then, it's settled." Lin Muyu stepped forward and grabbed the little dragon's tail. "From now on, you will be called Little Apple. Do you remember? You're a dragon with a name now, so you must remember your dignity as a member of the Holy Dragon tribe. Don't do that kind of no shameful dragon thing anymore. F***CK, who told you to poop here, you bastard?" Lin Muyu forcefully pulled the dragon's tail, while Little Apple waved its front claws at Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi for help. However, it was too late. It was immediately pulled into a black cloth bag by Lin Muyu and carried on her back. It could only curl up into a ball and let its master carry it. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi giggled. At this moment, the haze that Qin Yin brought about by Su Qin's death was finally swept away. In fact, although Su Qin was Qin Yin's uncle after all, they had not seen each other for too many years. Their feelings for each other had long faded, so they forgot each other relatively quickly. It was not that Qin Yin was fickle, it was just that things in the world were like this. Early in the morning, after a simple breakfast, the first day of hunting began. Under Chu Huayin's orders, 2,000 Imperial guards spread out and surrounded the entire hunting ground. Wei Chou, Xiahou Sang, and the other eagle guards patrolled around with longbows in hand, preventing anyone from entering the hunting ground. The real hunting was carried out by Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi. The others were actually just companions as long as they could make the princess happy. The 3 war horses entered the forest, and the Imperial guards and Imperial guards behind them also spread out far away. Lin Muyu extended her spiritual sense and did not find any powerful enemies within a 10-mile radius. However, there were many spirit beasts in the hunting ground, and some of their auras were actually quite strong. Qin Yin held a carved jade bow and said with a smile, "Brother Yu Shaoxi, let's compete to see who can shoot more prey. How about it?" "Sure." Tang Xiaoxi held her longbow and said with a smile, "My archery skills were personally taught to me by my grandfather." Lin Muyu felt a little awkward. Although he had learned archery from Wei Chou for a few days, he really couldn't use it. He could only follow the 2 beauties in the forest without saying a word. In the distance, a group of 200-year-old wolves were fleeing. These wolves had already been alerted by the Imperial guards, so how would they take the initiative to attack humans? Furthermore, spirit beasts weren't stupid. The wolves could feel the auras of Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi, so they naturally wouldn't come to their deaths. Qin Yin quickly galloped forward and quickly pulled out an arrow. With a whoosh, the arrow left the bowstring. In the next moment, a 120-year-old wolf fell to the ground and died. Tang Xiaoxi also drew her bow, and another wolf fell to the ground. Lin Muyu's heart sank. He hurriedly stopped his horse and shot. The arrow flew out and sank into a tree. "Hee hee," Qin Yin smiled extremely sweetly, "Brother Yu, call me master and Xiao Yin will teach you archery." Without saying a word, Lin Muyu raised his hand and a little magic sonar knife flew out. The wolf that seemed to be mocking him fell to the ground. 2 seconds later, the little magic sonar knife returned from its invisible state to his palm. Qin Yin pouted, "Shameless." Tang Xiaoxi held back her laughter. Lin Muyu said, "It's a hunt. As long as we can kill, we don't have to care about anything else." However, at this moment Xiao Pingwa suddenly crawled out of the sack and landed on the ground. Like a rabbit, he dashed towards the corpse of the swift wolf that Lin Muyu had killed. It was a 200-year-old swift wolf. Xiao Pingwa opened his mouth and bit down on the neck of the swift wolf's corpse, and began to gulp it down. Qin Yin's mouth opened wide. Xiao Pingwa actually ate it raw, yes. Lin Muyu urged his horse forward, only to find that Xiao Pingwa had quickly swallowed a small part of the wolf's corpse. At the same time, it had also swallowed the beast spirit of the 200-year-old wolf. Tang Xiaoxi was slightly surprised. After dismounting, she picked up Xiao Pingwa and wiped the blood off the corner of his mouth. Mu Xiaoyin looked at Xiao Pingwa's forehead. There are 2 gray lines on the scales. What's going on? Qin Yin was stunned and said in a low voice, "This is the sign of a 20-year-old beast. This Acatosaurus can increase its own cultivation by quickly devouring the beast spirit of other beasts." Lin Muyu was also stunned and she could not help but feel happy. That's great. Let it devour more beast spirits. Who knows, it might be able to speed up its growth. Xiaoyin, in the history of the empire were there dragon knights? Yes. Qin Yin nodded seriously. The founding general Luo Tonghai was a dragon knight, but he rode a black-scale dragon, which was not part of the Holy Dragon clan. However, the fact that Luo Tonghai was able to ride a dragon with his cultivation alone is already a legend. Lin Muyu clenched her fist confidently and smiled, "Then I might be another dragon knight." Tang Xiaoxi laughed, "You want to ride Xiao Pingwa?" "Yes, can't I?" "Sure, just don't crush it to death." Gosh. They continued hunting and soon Qin Yin killed a 300-year-old bramble bear. She ordered her golden rock swift wolf to devour the beast spirit. Although the golden rock swift wolf was fierce, it seemed to be afraid of Xiao Pingwa. It was scared away by Xiao Pingwa halfway through. After scaring away the golden rock swift wolf, Xiao Pingwa immediately began to eat. With another 10 years of cultivation, it had become a 30-year-old Acatosaurus. Unfortunately, it only grew in strength and did not grow in size. It still looked so small. Soon, when Lin Muyu killed a 1,200-year-old swift wolf, she ordered Xiao Pingwa to devour the beast spirit. In the end, Xiao Pingwa actually circled the swift wolf's corpse 7 or 8 times before kneeling in front of Lin Muyu. It squinted its eyes and looked very unhappy. "What's going on?" Lin Muyu was a little puzzled. Qin Yin said, "Spirit beasts cannot devour beast spirits that are much stronger than them, otherwise they will be devoured. Xiaopingwa is really smart, he knows that there are some spirit beasts that cannot be eaten. So it's like that. Lin Muyu raised her engraved bow and continued to kill the spirit beasts that were less than 1,000 years old. Since the royal hunting ground rarely had people, it was a waste of food to keep these spirit beasts. Chapter 254. Throughout the morning, Little Apple had devoured at least 10 swift wolves and thorn bears beast spirits. Finally, the 10 gray lines on its forehead had condensed into a silver line. This proved that Little Apple had grown into a 100-year-old spirit beast. Although it was weak, its potential was limitless. Burp! The little fellow sat beside Lin Muyu's legs, burping and lazily basking in the sun. Qin Yin gently stroked Little Apple's head and smiled. It seems that the beast spirits it absorbed this morning have reached its cultivation limit. It needs to digest well before it can continue to devour beast spirits to cultivate. Lin Muyu nodded. She and the little dragon had a soul contract, so she could naturally sense the saturation of the spiritual power in the little dragon's body. However, the little dragon was growing too fast. This saturation state would not last long. It needed more power to grow. In order to raise this little fellow, Lin Muyu was destined to suffer a lot. They had a simple lunch at noon and continued hunting in the afternoon. It seemed that Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were no longer interested in hunting, but in raising their pets. Qin Yin's golden rock swift wolf had also devoured many beast spirits. Although it was growing slowly, it was still growing. In fact, Lin Muyu still had a lot of expectations for the golden rock swift wolf. If the golden rock swift wolf could grow to more than 5,000 years, it should be able to protect its master. But obviously the little dragon was more worth looking forward to. It had devoured many beast spirits in one afternoon and had already grown to the realm of 200 years. Under Lin Muyu's suggestion, Qin Yin decided to stay in the dragon-seeking forest for 2 more days. As expected, the little dragon's appetite was even bigger the next day. In just one morning, it had devoured dozens of spirit beasts, wild beast spirits. It looked exactly like a gluttonous snake. But when it was almost noon, the little dragon suddenly let out a strange AOAO sound, and a 5th silver line slowly appeared on its head. 500 years. Tang Xiaoxi got off the horse and knelt down to take care of Xiaolong. Is Little Apple all right? He looks like he's in a lot of pain. Lin Muyu could sense the change in the little dragon's power. She shook her head and said, "Don't worry, it's fine. It's just that its body is full of spiritual power. It seems like it needs to release." "Really?" Tang Xiaoxi asked in surprise. "How does it release it?" This. Lin Muyu couldn't explain it clearly. However, at this moment, the cries of the little dragon suddenly became even more mournful. It raised its head high and even its fangs extended. Flames slowly rose from its mouth, and its body also began to change. It seemed to be growing and its body became more muscular. The red crystal scales all over its body also became larger, reflecting an extremely bright luster under the sunlight. Hum. Suddenly the little dragon raised its tail and released 2 whiffs of foul air. It was extremely smelly. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi hurriedly took a few steps back. Their beautiful faces paled. "Little Apple, it's..." Lin Muyu chuckled. "That's right. Farting is how it releases its energy. Perhaps there are too many impurities in the wild beast souls it devoured, so it's releasing them in this way." Of course, Lin Muyu knew that the Acatosaurus in front of her was not just simply farting. It was undergoing its first draconic transformation. That's right, it was a necessary step for a young dragon to evolve into an adult dragon. In less than 10 minutes, the little dragon's body had doubled in size. It already looked like a large dog. At the same time, its 4 claws had become particularly strong, and the claws looked as sharp as a knife. Under the soul contract, Lin Muyu could feel the changes in the little dragon's heart. It had already obtained its first draconic transformation ability. Turning around, she looked at Tang Xiaoxi and Qin Yin. Lin Muyu smiled. Xiaoyin, do you want to see the power of a 500-year-old Acatosaurus?" Qin Yin opened her small mouth. "Little Apple can already fight?" "Yes, it can." Lin Muyu ordered telepathically. "Little Apple, let me see your power." "Woo!" The little dragon raised its head and let out a proud roar. This time, it finally had a little bit of the dignity of the dragon race. In the next second, it had already rushed out, heading straight for an ancient pine tree with a diameter of nearly 50 centimeters not far away. Its speed did not decrease at all. It's going to hit the tree," Tang Xiaoxi almost could not bear to watch. However, just as it was about to hit the tree, the little dragon suddenly raised its front claws. With a whoosh, the dragon power condensed into a sharp claw at least half a meter long. With a sudden strike, the huge pine tree was instantly cut in half. Amidst the rumbling sound, the huge tree slowly collapsed. It was a very shocking scene. That tree? Is that the legendary iron pine tree? Qin Yin's small face was full of shock. It actually broke the iron pine tree with just one claw. Heavens, such power. The iron pine tree was a distant relative of the iron pear flower. They were all plants with an iron layer growing on their surface. They were indestructible and even swords could not penetrate them. However, an Acatosaurus's attack had easily cut it in half. Lin Muyu knew that she could do it easily with the dragon spirit sword. However, this Acatosaurus was only 500 years old. A 500-year-old spiritual beast could not possibly cut the iron pine tree. A woo! The little dragon wagged its tail and ran back to Lin Muyu, asking for credit. Lin Muyu patted its head and said with a smile, "Not bad, not bad. It's only the first time you've transformed into a dragon and you already have such strength. You really don't disappoint me." In the game Conquer, as an Einherjar, Lin Muyu owned an Acatosaurus. The Acatosaurus in the game was exactly the same as the little dragon in front of her. Even their abilities were the same. The ability obtained from the first dragon transformation was called Phantom Claw. It could transform into a dragon's claw to attack its target. The legendary Acatosaurus had sharp teeth and claws. However, the little apple was getting bigger and bigger. This made Lin Muyu a little worried. She could not possibly bring such a big guy around in the future, could she? After that, the little dragon did not eat anything. After its first dragon transformation, it needed a long period of rest. Otherwise, its body would not be able to withstand such a strong power. Back in her room in the palace, Lin Muyu was still unhappy. She was worried about the little dragon's future size. At this moment, the voice of the 7 luminaries demon emperor came from her high again. "Lin Ruoji, let's make a deal. How about it?" "Oh, what deal do I have with you?" Lin Muyu said. The 7 luminaries demon emperor laughed. "In your world, you are the son of a business tycoon. Don't you understand the principle of mutual benefit? You help me with something and I will help you with something. How about that? Then tell me, what can you help me with?" Lin Muyu asked. The 7 luminaries demon emperor smiled. "Do you know about breaking through the void?" "Breaking through the void?" Lin Muyu shook her head in surprise. "I don't know." The 7 luminaries demon emperor's tone was full of disdain. "You are indeed a weak fool. Let me tell you, your current cultivation is the heavenly state. The next step is the holy state. However, the holy state is just a small stop in the process of cultivation. The ultimate goal of cultivation is to live forever. If you want to have eternal life, step into the godly state, refine your soul, and get rid of your mortal body. This is the direction you are pursuing. And then? Every cultivator who steps into the first heaven of the godly state will automatically understand the power of breaking through the void. Only by mastering the power of breaking through the void can you break through the laws of space. This also means that after stepping into the godly state, you can perform a short-distance space jump and use your divine power to forcefully open a crack in space. As long as you do me a favor, I can teach you in advance the power of breaking through the void that only gods have. As long as you master the basics of breaking through the void, you will naturally be able to open a crack in space for your Acatosaurus, allowing it to live in a different space. When you need it, you can summon it back to the Shattered Cauldron realm where you are. There's such a good thing? Lin Muyu's heart skipped a beat. Then what you want me to do for you, it must not be something good, right? Tell me about it first. The 7 luminaries demon emperor laughed. No, it's actually very simple. I just hope that you can open the second realm of the Sea of Will, so that I can cultivate in the second realm of the Sea of Will and enjoy the rest of my life. Cultivate in the Sea of Will? Lin Muyu was shocked. Yes, that's right. The 7 Brilliance Demon Monarch said with a hint of pride. The truth is, everyone's EC contains an endless amount of energy. You just need to open up the second layer of your EC for me, and I'll be able to plant a field with the spiritual root in my EC. Otherwise, I'll be bored to death doing nothing all day. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor, do you think I'm a monkey? No matter how stupid I am, I can guess that you want to use the energy derived from the spirit fields to enrich your spiritual energy and use it to counterattack me. Isn't that right? The 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor laughed loudly. You're indeed not stupid, but you have that damn cauldron. It's enough to contend against this Emperor's seventh luminary's profound energy. What are you worried about? I'm not worried. Lin Muyu regained her composure. She smiled faintly. Deal. This time, it was the seven luminaries' demon emperor who was shocked. Brat, are you crazy? You dare to make a deal with me like this? What's there to be afraid of? I need the power to shatter the void. Good, haha, you've got guts. This emperor likes idiots who aren't afraid of death like you. Come, in the next few days I will teach you the essentials of shattering the void. However, your body can't withstand the mighty distortion of space, so you can only learn a little. You can use it to transport a Catasaurus, but forget about your own body. It will be torn to pieces by the power of the plane. Got it? Sitting upright on the bed, she opened the second layer of her Sea of Will. The seven luminaries' demon emperor's profound energy quickly occupied this layer. Spiritual roots were planted in the Sea of Will and grew rapidly. At the same time, the seven luminaries' demon emperor's soul also gifted a large amount of energy to Lin Muyu. In an instant, a strong force surged into her brain. Lin Muyu let out a muffled groan and fainted on the bed. Chapter 255. By the time she woke up, it was already nightfall. Lin Muyu shook her head vigorously. She still felt that her mind was a little sluggish, but she could clearly feel a very mysterious power surging in her body. She stood up. Not far away, the little dragon was curled up in a corner and sleeping soundly. This sleep seemed to have made its body grow a lot. Looking at her palm, Lin Muyu was secretly a little suspicious. The seven luminaries' demon emperor had promised to teach her the power to break through the void. What was it exactly? She could not feel it at all now. She focused her spiritual sense and sank her chi into her dantian, guiding the mysterious power in her body to slowly move around. This power seemed to have its own intelligence and moved to her legs. It swelled up and even shone with a dazzling dark blue light through her combat boots. It had reached the point where she had to use it. Lin Muyu's breathing became more and more rapid. Finally, she could not suppress this power anymore. Her combat boots suddenly stomped on the ground. Suddenly, with a schwa sound, mysterious dark blue energy cubes appeared in her field of vision. The cubes bloomed one by one as if she could reach out and touch them. With her as the axis, they spread out in three directions. Lin Muyu was dumbfounded. Ever since she came to this world, she had seen many mysterious powers. The power of the martial soul, fighting energy, and so on. They were all very mysterious, but never as mysterious as this power in front of her. It could be described as vast as the sea, as deep as the stars. Moreover, the scenery in front of her seemed to have disappeared. The bed, the armor hanging on it, and the little dragon had all disappeared. All Lin Muyu could see was the divine space constructed by the energy cubes. The voice of the seven luminaries' demon emperor came from her high. Hey Lin Muyu, this is what you will see when you first enter the divine state. I will let you experience it first. Breaking through the void is not that easy to understand. The energy space you see in front of you is the most basic structure of this world. You must use your own power to break this rule in order to break through the void. Lin Muyu gritted her teeth and stood still. She slowly urged her vigorous fighting energy to tear through this three-dimensional space. However, it seemed that she did not have the strength to do so. Only divine power could break the rules of space. How could his fighting energy break through it? Break. The dragon spirit sword slashed heavily on the energy grid, but sparks burst out. The tyrannical power of space was like steel, causing Lin Muyu and her sword to fly back. She turned around and stood firm. Her face was covered in sweat. This was the 27th time she had tried to break through this space with her martial soul and fighting energy, but she had failed every time. In her high, the seven luminaries' demon emperor could be faintly seen. They had already planted a lush green cornfield and a lush green rice field in the second layer of Lin Muyu's high. What are you looking at? The seven brilliance demon monarch was squatting in the spiritual field, straightening a stalk of corn with his palm. He raised his head and glanced into the sky. He said smilingly after sensing Lin Muyu's gaze, "Just focus on studying your space-shattering art. There's no point talking about it if you can't even pass the most basic stage." Lin Muyu gritted her teeth. Her body appeared in the air of the high. She stretched out her hand and pointed, "You are planting these things in my high. I want half of the benefits." The seven luminaries' demon emperor stared and said, "You are too greedy. You want half. Do you think I, the seven luminaries' demon emperor, am a vegetarian? I will at most give you 20%. Stop talking nonsense. You are planting spiritual fields in my Ehai. You are at most a tenant farmer. What right do you have to challenge me? I said I want half, so I want half. Actually, Lin Muyu did not know what these spiritual fields were for, but she still wanted to take the benefits. What was there to be polite with the 7 luminaries demon emperor? Alright, the 7 luminaries demon emperor compromised. He stood majestically in the middle of the spiritual fields. The power of the 3rd level of the godly state enshrouded his body. His aura was majestic as if he wanted to twist the entire space. He smiled and said, Lin Ruoji, you better study your divine power. I have given you about 5% of my divine power. If you do not make good use of it, it will be too much of a waste. You gave me 5% of your divine power? Lin Muyu was shocked. 5% of his divine power was equivalent to 5% of the 7 luminaries demon emperor's divine power. Although the 7 luminaries demon emperor had less than 10% of his original divine power, with his strength at his peak, even 0.5% of his divine power should be enough for Lin Muyu to dominate the world, right? Where is the divine power? Lin Muyu asked. The 7 luminaries demon emperor laughed and said, divine power is an energy substance. Naturally, it is in your energy sea. Do you think it is in your head? Feel it well. The part of your energy sea that is most different from the essence of your power was given to you by me. Oh, Lin Muyu did feel that there was something strange in his energy sea. It turned out that the 7 luminaries demon emperor was so generous. Hence, he paid attention to the body in the energy sea and cupped his fists and said, thank you, 7 luminaries demon emperor. The 7 luminaries demon emperor was stunned. He never knew that this kid could be so courteous. In the past, when he saw him, he would shout and kill him. At this moment, the 7 luminaries demon emperor was speechless. When he wanted to speak, he looked up and saw that Lin Muyu's spiritual sense had already flown out of his Ehai. Hong hong hong. In her chi sea, streams of battle energy were extremely vigorous, surging like raging waves. Lin Muyu tried her best to circulate her battle energy, trying to find that strange divine power. After about 10 minutes, she finally found a ray of golden light in the midst of the waves in her chi sea. Found it? Come out. With a low roar, the divine power was immediately summoned. It appeared directly in the palm of his hand and lingered around his fingers like waves of ripples. It looked soft, but the destructive power contained within was very shocking. Lin Muyu leaped into the air, condensed her left hand into a palm, and slammed it down on the energy cube not far away. Pung! This time it worked. It directly blasted a big hole in the energy square, and a small space crack appeared. However, this space crack existed for less than 0.1 seconds before it closed again, which made Lin Muyu very sad. The 7 luminaries demon emperor's arrogant laughter came from the Ehai. Lin Muyu, you idiot, divine power is not used like this. Lin Muyu frowned. Yes, he also felt that the 0.5% divine power that the 7 luminaries demon emperor gave him was enough to cut through space. But why couldn't he succeed? At this moment, Tang Xiaoxi's voice came from outside. Mu, it's time for dinner. Come out quickly. He was slightly startled and hurriedly said, Xiaoxi, I'm cultivating. I won't be eating. Help me get some meat and put it in your room. When I'm done cultivating, I'll go to your room. And okay. The sound of footsteps could be heard. Tang Xiaoxi and Qinin had gone far away. Lin Muyu continued to concentrate on his cultivation. But this time he was not in a hurry to cut through space. Instead, he sat cross-legged on the axis where he was. His spiritual sense slowly spread out, feeling the mysteries of this space. After a few hours, he suddenly remembered that his position was the axis of space, and the directions of the energy squares were in the X, Y, and Z axis. This was not some divine power cutting through space at all, but clearly a dimensional space. Dimension. That's right, this was it. Although Lin Muyu was the king of games, his results were not bad. He was also very knowledgeable in astrophysics. The space that people were in was a 3-dimensional space, but if the void shattering really existed, it would be equivalent to destroying this 3-dimensional space. But how could one surpass the 3 dimensions of the 3-dimensional space? Perhaps, it would require the power of the 4th dimension. From the beginning, the 7 luminaries demon emperor did not really teach him how to step through the void shattering. Instead, he gave him a concept for himself to explore. The so-called power of the void shattering, in other words, was the power of a godly state expert transformed into the 4th dimension. That's right, it was the power of the 4th dimension. Lin Muyu was suddenly ecstatic. He had found the trick. As long as the speed of his attack exceeded the speed of light and reached the definition of the power of the fourth dimension, he would be able to break the laws of space and cut a hole in the existing space. That's right, that's it. He suddenly stood up. This time he did not accumulate the divine power in his palms, but in the soles of his feet. He released his spiritual sense, and the power of the virtual body moved quickly in the three-dimensional space, running all the way to the north of the dragon-seeking forest. With the divine power added to the fallen star steps, his speed was a little shocking, getting faster and faster, approaching the speed of light. Ah! Lin Muyu could not help but wail. Moving at the speed of light constantly burned his spiritual sense, and at the same time, brought unimaginable pain to his body. Now, the 7 luminaries demon emperor suddenly shouted in the sea. Lin Muyu understood. His spiritual sense, which was thousands of miles away, suddenly struck out with his palm. Bang! Amidst the shocking sound, the flames in the forest north of Seven Seas City exploded, and a huge space crack with a radius of about 2 meters appeared in the forest. Not far away, a few cloud deer called out and pricked up their ears, looking very surprised. When Lin Muyu withdrew his power, the space crack also closed naturally. Ah! He let out a light breath and sat on the ground softly. The 7 luminaries demon emperor smiled and said, I didn't expect you to really understand the profound meaning of the power to break through the void. You really did not let me down. However, so what if you open the space crack thousands of miles away? I can break through the space 1 meter in front of me. You are still far from it. Lin Muyu could not help but laugh. 7 luminaries demon emperor, I know this is very difficult, but I will work hard. Also, this so-called power to break through the void. In fact, in my world it is called the 4-dimensional power. As long as the attack speed reaches the speed of light, it can achieve the effect of breaking through space. In this aspect, I'm afraid there is a person called Einstein who has studied it more thoroughly than you. The 7 luminaries demon emperor was stunned and was speechless again. Lin Muyu rested for a short while and continued to cultivate. What he needed to do was to raise the speed of his spiritual sense to the speed of light in the shortest time possible. It would be best if he could reach the speed of light within 10 meters, and he could only do this with his spiritual sense. As for his physical body, just like what the 7 luminaries demon emperor said, he was immortal and could not withstand the impact of such speed friction. Chapter 256. It wasn't until the latter half of the night that Lin Muyu's spiritual sense and divine power finally became more compatible. She was able to create a spatial crack 10 miles away, but it was still too far away. She couldn't possibly let Xiaolong find the spatial crack 10 miles away and enter it, right? At this moment, she was exhausted and didn't have enough physical strength to support her cultivation. She went out and went to the next door. She knocked on the door and asked, Xiaoyin Xiaoxi, are you asleep? Creak. The door opened. Tang Xiaoxi was only wearing pajamas. She rubbed her eyes and said, Why did Mu cultivate so late? Crazy? Xiaoyin is asleep. The food I brought for you is on the table. Okay, thank you. Lin Muyu smiled and walked over. When she turned around, she realized that Qin Yin had indeed fallen asleep. The moonlight shone on her beautiful face, giving off a bright glow. She was sleeping very peacefully and was extremely charming. The food was placed in a golden cauldron. Lin Muyu picked it up and whispered, I'll go back to my room to eat. Xiaoxi, you should also go to bed early and rest well. Are we going back to Lanyan City tomorrow? Yes. Tang Xiaoxi nodded and said with a smile, We've been out for almost 3 days. His Majesty sent someone to visit Xiaoyin and said that he misses her very much, so Xiaoyin decided to leave tomorrow. Will this affect Xiaoyin's cultivation? It won't. Lin Muyu shook her head and said, Xiaolong has absorbed too much spiritual power. He needs to digest it for a period of time to grow, so there's no need to be too anxious. Okay. Lin Muyu carried the golden pot out of the door and looked back at Tang Xiaoxi with a smile. Sleep early. Good night. Okay, Mo. Good night. Tang Xiaoxi rubbed her beautiful eyes and went back to sleep. On the other side of the corridor, Chu Huaijin stood in the darkness with his hand on his sword. He stood straight and looked straight ahead. He silently guarded outside the room of the princess and princess. Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. Brother Chu, are you asleep? Chu Huayin chuckled. Yes, I'm a little worried about other people keeping watch, but I didn't see anything. You can do whatever you want, hee hee. F***ck. Lin Muyu grinned and carried the golden cauldron back to his room. He had to cultivate the fourth dimension as soon as possible. Otherwise, he would not be able to keep the little dragon growing day by day. After returning to his room, he wolfed down a cauldron of delicious food. He felt that he couldn't fall asleep, so he continued to cultivate the fourth dimension. Gradually, the strand of divine power given by the seven luminaries Demon Emperor no longer rejected Lin Muyu's spiritual sense, body, and battle energy. It was even able to coexist with battle energy. This made Lin Muyu very happy. The more perfect the compatibility, the faster his spiritual sense could move. Perhaps he could really do what the seven luminaries Demon Emperor did and create a crack in space nearby. After cultivating again and again, this strand of divine power had become a treasure. Not only did it greatly increase the strength of his spiritual sense, it also seemed to be refining Lin Muyu's physique, bones, and blood. Although he wasn't a godly state ranker, he seemed to have inherited the power of a godly state ranker. By early morning, the results of his cultivation were obvious. His spiritual sense was like a bullet that could already create a crack in space 3 miles away. However, it was still far from enough. If he wanted it to be practical, he had to create a crack in space within 100 meters. However, he didn't have time to cultivate anymore. After breakfast, he got on the horse and wrapped the little dragon in a black cloth bag. Then he escorted Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi back to Lanyan City. He didn't stay idle during the journey. The strand of divine power given by the seven luminaries Demon Emperor slowly circulated in his body, increasing his compatibility with the power. Lin Muyu secretly felt that it was a pity that the seven luminaries Demon Emperor wasn't one of them. Otherwise, if he gave her more divine power, she might be able to ascend to become a god while she was still alive. The seven brilliance demon monarch in Lin Muyu's will see swiftly read his thoughts. He could not help but burst out laughing. Lin Muyu, don't even think about it. My talents are unparalleled. I don't mind giving you more god force, but your flesh and soul can only endure this much god force. If I give you more, it will only destroy you and you will die from the backlash of the god force. Lin Muyu's expression changed drastically. Lin Muyu nodded. His spiritual sense entered his Yi and said, I have seen a battle between gods. It was the battle between you and Qin Yi and the others in the 17th level of purgatory. Therefore, I know my own limits and have a certain amount of respect for gods. The seven luminaries Demon Emperor's eyes widened. He pointed at the spiritual field behind him and scolded, After I accidentally entered your Yi, have you ever respected me at all? Damn, hypocrite. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh awkwardly. Ah, that's all a misunderstanding. Who asked you to only think about taking over my body all day? If there was such a person living in your body, you wouldn't be able to respect me. Humph, at least you know what's good for you. The seven brilliance demon monarch said with a calm smile. However, the truth isn't what you think it is. The battle between me and Qin Yi and the other martial god realm experts did not happen a few months ago, but 200 years ago. What? 200 years ago? Lin Muyu was dumbfounded. How is that possible? If it was a battle that happened 200 years ago, how could I have seen it? I'm only in my 20s. Haha, that's why I said your knowledge is too shallow. The seven luminaries Demon Emperor laughed loudly. Qin Yi, that old bastard, is full of schemes and schemes. He can be considered a hero of his generation. He had long cultivated to the 3rd level of God state and became a true God Emperor. Therefore, he used the God Emperor's battle samsara power to reverse time and lured me into the 17th level of purgatory. Therefore, although you saw that battle, it had already ended 200 years ago. It was just that you entered a space-time gap, so you were lucky enough to obtain a tiny bit of this Emperor's seven luminaries' profound energy. Battle samsara? Lin Muyu was dumbfounded. She muttered, Demon Emperor, you're saying, a God Emperor at the 3rd level of God state can use his divine power to reverse time? Yes. The seven luminaries Demon Emperor said faintly, but this power cannot change the course of history. However, it seems like you are an exception. You entered a space-time gap 200 years ago and actually managed to come to the plane 200 years later. Forget it, this is probably fate. If it wasn't for you, this Emperor's soul would have been scattered 200 years ago and I would have perished together with that old bastard Qin Yi. As he said that, the seven luminaries Demon Emperor sat down on the cornfield and laughed happily. To think that even now that old bastard Qin Yi has already perished, yet this Emperor can still plant spiritual fields here. Aha, this is the difference between strength and luck. Humph, that scheming villain Qin Yi is destined to not be as happy as this Emperor. Lin Muyu's face was filled with contempt. However, the 7 luminaries demon emperor's words were too shocking. She had actually experienced a war that ended 200 years ago and brought the soul of the 7 luminaries demon emperor 200 years into the future. This was indeed an opportunity. Thinking about it carefully, if it wasn't for the 7 luminaries demon emperor's help, she would probably have become a pile of desolate bones under the iron hooves of this world. At this moment, the first cornfield in the spiritual field had ripened. The 7 luminaries demon emperor let out a low roar and began to absorb the spiritual energy of the crops in the spiritual field. In the blink of an eye, the stalks of corn shriveled up. The rich spiritual energy continuously surged into the 7 luminaries demon emperor's body, causing his damaged soul to rapidly recover. At this rate, within half a year, the 7 luminaries demon emperor's soul would probably recover completely. At that time, how would Lin Muyu be able to control him? As if he could see through Lin Muyu's thoughts, the 7 luminaries demon emperor raised his head and smiled. Don't worry, this emperor's goal is to trample the god realm. I won't fight with a weakling like you for this human continent, nor will I kill you. As long as I find a suitable body in the future, you just need to help me a little. Open your Ihai and let me go. Lin Muyu curled her lips. As if I'd believe you. You said you would give me half of the spiritual field, so I want the other half of the cornfield. Okay. At this moment, Lin Muyu's spiritual sense entered his Ihai and condensed his primordial spirit body. With a leap, he landed in the cornfield, broke off a stalk of corn and sniffed it. There was a fragrant smell, and more importantly, it contained supreme spiritual energy. Lin Muyu didn't care that much and took a bite. The corn juice immediately splashed out. So fragrant. As he chewed, spiritual energy continuously surged into his body, replenishing the battle energy that he had lost during cultivation. This was indeed good stuff. The 7 luminaries demon emperor was indeed a qualified tenant farmer. Thus, after eating half of the spiritual corn, Lin Muyu's physical strength and battle energy had almost recovered to the peak. He sat on the horse and closed his eyes as he walked. The forging dragon bone manual circulated in his body. He had to become stronger. Only by becoming stronger could he survive, reach the god realm, and obtain the power of reincarnation. Time would flow back. No matter how long it took, he could return to the real world, see his young father and brother, and live the life he wanted. They arrived at Zetian Palace in the afternoon and ordered Wei Chou, Xiahou Sang, and the others to return to Eagle Nest Mountain. Lin Muyu entered the palace and went to see the emperor with Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi and Chu Huaying. After not seeing them for 3 days, Qin Jin's complexion seemed to have improved a little. However, he still looked old. As he watched Qin Yin and the others enter the main hall, he could not help but reveal an expression of relief. He said, "Little Yin, how have you been in the hunting grounds these past few days?" Qin Yin smiled. "I've been very happy." "Ha, as long as you're happy." Qin Yin walked up to Qin Jin and gently massaged his shoulders. She asked with a smile, "Father, how is the investigation on Jianghu going?" Qin Jin narrowed his eyes and said, "On the day of General Su Qin's assassination, Jianghu wasn't present, so he can't escape responsibility. However, he denies it and refuses to plead guilty. Commander Feng Jixing is currently interrogating him." "What if he refuses to plead guilty?" Qin Yin asked. Qin Jin gritted his teeth and said calmly, "Even if Jianghu didn't personally assassinate General Su Qin in the Dragon Search Forest, it must have been done by someone he entrusted. Moreover, Jianghu is the descendant of the war god Xiang Wenyan and has been arrogant in the imperial capital for a long time. I plan to remove Jianghu from his position as the commander of the military police and exile him to Tongtian province. What do you think, Xiaoyin?" Qin Yin gently waved her hand and said with a smile, "Father is wise. I heard that Xianghu and Jin Yifan are very close in private. Keeping him alive would be a threat to the emperor, so exiling him would be the best choice. However, the commander-in-chief of the military police is very important. Does father have a candidate in mind?" You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.